We are Brightside Home Theater.
Hey, home theater fans, welcome to the Brightside Home Theater Podcast. The Home Theater Podcast, it's all about the experiences, the sights,
the sounds,
the scenes.
That's our new names. How you doing, sights? That's me. Sounds. How you doing, sounds?
That's John. So how do I get scenes?
Because you're all that, right? John and I are just one piece, but you are all that, Steve.
All that. It seems like you sort of need to do that, do you? We're going to start calling each other girlfriend, and then things are going to get very weird.
Yeah.
Get weird. Get weird. We're doing multi-houred podcasts on home theater. It's weird. It's already weird. So, how's everybody doing? We didn't even get much time before we hit record here. How's everybody doing?
Good. Yeah,
great.
Yeah, busy week. Got to get my geek on at the weekend at the Bristol Comic-Con and Gaming Festival. So that was quite fun. Rocking the shirt. Oh, see, now John's gone clever again. Now he's changed his name.
Changed his name.
Right.
On the fly.
On the fly.
Right. I'm not having that. I'm going to see if I can do that. Let's see. This is where we break the whole thing.
Yeah. What could go wrong, right?
Yeah.
That's why there's three of us. One at a time.
Well, yes. Right. Dang, no, but I'm not getting away with that. There you go.
There we go.
Who says we've got nothing better to do?
Right.
There we go.
That's why it's 3 hours, folks.
Mikey Schramm, I like being a nerd. Well,
good man. But yeah, no, it was cool. It was really good fun. And I didn't quite know what to expect by this thing because I haven't been to a con like this in years. And they just happened to be on local, and a friend of mine was going with his sons and was like, "Oh, it's happening. Do you want to come down?" I was like, "Yeah, okay." And it's only a small thing, and I thought, "Oh God, it's going to be really poor." But actually, it was really fun, and they had loads of good stuff and some very cool cosplayers. Including the UK Garrison, so they've got the proper Lucasfilm costumes. It's not just cosplayers, or if they are cosplayers, they're professionals. So that was really cool. Yeah, I got some good pictures and was rocking the Brightside HT shirt.
Is that the 501st Legion?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so like exactly that. But the UK Garrison sort of version. So yeah, they were great. There were some Pennywise sort of people walking about and that kind of thing, which was quite fun. Both the old and the new one. So yeah, it was good. It was fun. Yeah, not bad at all. And I was hoping to pick up some discs, but there was no one there selling any, so that was a shame. It was all just kind of memorabilia and stuff. So but I didn't get recognized, no matter how much I wore the shirt, no matter how much I paraded around. Dang. So I went cosplaying as podcast co-host, and no one recognized me. So what the hell?
Well, you got to do a few. Yeah, I mean, 10 years from now, you'll be hit by like fives of people.
That's it. Oh yeah, that's it. There'll be literally a person, and that'll be someone related to me. Fancy seeing you here.
Yeah, well, you got to announce it too ahead of time that you're going to be there. That always helps. And then people will go looking for you.
Yeah, I went to a furry convention. That was epic. Although what I do feel bad about, I don't know how you guys feel, because I'm sure, John, you've been to cons, I'm sure. I don't know about you, Deej. I don't know if you're that kind of guy. I know John is, without even asking.
Many.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what always feels bad, and there was a few here, you get the artist, the author, the whoever it might be, and they've got a little table, and they've got a pile of books, and there's no one in sight.
Yep.
And it's just, I feel really bad for those people. And not enough to go and buy a book, but I still feel quite bad for them.
I got one. The last one that my son and I went to was in Boston. I think it was last year. I told you this, told you, John. And it was right next to him was the guy who played the T-1000. What's his name?
Robert Patrick.
Robert Patrick. He was there signing, and Joe and I were like, "Oh, we should have brought the laser disc and stuff," but we never plan ahead. We're just like, "Let's just go." So we just go, and So we stood and watched him, and not a lot of people in his line, but people would go up, and it would have been a great opportunity just to go up and say hi and whatever. But we don't really get into that. But right next to him at a Comic-Con, and it's all comics and just all that stuff. John Lovitz, not a single person. Not a single, and I was just like, Joe and I it was like watching a train wreck, because it was just, he's out of place. It's
Right.
like,
why is he even there?
at a Comic-Con, right? Like, what did he do comic related, right? And at least, I mean, Robert Patrick, he's done a lot of stuff that shows up at Comic-Cons, and like, besides T2, right? But he also was in whatchamacallit there. With John Cena.
Yeah, Peacemaker.
Right?
Yeah.
So he was in Peacemaker with John Cena. So that's literally comic book related. But then he also did, coincidentally, an episode of Psych with John Cena, which would, and they're big at Comic-Con, Psych is. So it's like you have that, at least that little bit of a relationship there for that, and from movies and stuff. But John Lovitz and nobody. Even I had to point out who he was to Joe, and you just feel awful.
Well, obviously, John, again, I know you listen to the Kevin Smith podcasts, don't you?
Yes.
And they have a history with John Lovitz, and they're not his biggest fans.
Yeah,
no.
not fans.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well,
so
it's more
business issue,
Kevin
isn't
and
it?
Ralph Garman. They did Hollywood Babylon initially, was at the Lovitz Theater. And
that's right.
They had a big falling out.
And a public one too, wasn't it? This was not one of those let's keep it quiet job. This was let's tell the world.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, so I do feel bad for people like that are just kind of sat there. We've been to the cons where they have them, and again, people just sat there and you feel a bit awkward. And then right next to them there's a line out the door. You're just thinking, oh no, you almost feel like you want. I mean, funny enough, you guys, I don't know if you'd have ever heard of a guy called Danny Dyer. He's a British actor that's in British stuff here, and we went to this one con and he was there, and my nephew wanted his autograph. I mean, I couldn't care less, but he did, and so I queued up because this was going to be his Christmas present. So I queued up and I got thing. And next to him was a guy called Tamar Hassan, and Tamar's been in every film Danny's been in, including things like Kick-Ass and stuff. He's one of the henchmen in Kick-Ass, and they've done lots of kind of Z-list. Not even B movies, you'd probably call them C or D movies, and he was right next to him, and literally no one was talking to him at all. And so I was having a little chat to him whilst we were waiting to see Danny Dyer, but just felt a bit awkward, really.
Yeah. There's always a few.
Yeah. But it was fun though. It was good. We had a good time. So not too bad. So
yeah, they're fun to get out to. They're absolutely fun doing that. So. All right, let's take care of a little bit of business here. You can find us. It's in the show notes now. You can find me on Twitter at BrightSideHT. You can find George at Legal Beagle OK. Steve George. I was reading your scenes, George, and I'm like, George, blah, and I was trying to remember at Legal Beagle all at the same time.
Okay,
My mind does not multitask well, especially while I'm trying to come up with pages that I'm looking for here too. And the third person I'd like to mention, Sircone.
You didn't even say that right.
I know. I did that. I did that on purpose.
I was gonna say I've known you a long time, man.
I know. That's why I did that. I'm like, if you're gonna screw up big.
Yeah. I'm going to just embrace it now. Change the name.
Yeah.
Yep. George Scenes Steve.
Can't beat them. Just join them.
Yeah, exactly. Lean into it. Kind of like Mike Trump. I love being a nerd. Well, hey, just lean into it, right? So let's see.
That's going to confuse you now for the entire podcast, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, I'm at Arkham Comics with an X on Twitter.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good man.
Let me see. See, when you're trying to do something like this,
multitask,
you don't get the opportunity to do this stuff.
John, did you see the picture with me next to the Arkham sign?
I did.
the
That was
Arkham,
very cool. Yeah.
As soon as I saw that, I thought, right, I know who I need to get a picture of that for.
Right.
Yeah. There we go. All right.
There we go.
Shouldn't it be Briggs Scatterbrain DJ?
Yeah. I don't get the time. So I'm assuming that you don't have to get up early, Steve.
No, I'm all good. Yeah, although
Okay,
it's still
good.
early here.
I
It's only
just-
20 past 8 in the evening. This is like,
Oh, that's right.
middle of the day. to
John
what
and
I'm
I are
used to.
still hungry, but
Yeah, I was gonna say I still don't want to go 10 hours.
no. Oh, you didn't know this is the 24-hour one?
Yeah, well, sign me up for about 3.
Yeah. There you go. All right.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't go that long.
Yeah.
Not
No,
hopefully.
I'm-
but
I'm
let's see
good
what
for-
happens.
2-3 hours if we have to. That's fine. Let's not go beyond 11 p.m. my time.
There we go.
Then we'll
All
see how
right.
we go.
So, all right, we have no new patrons this week, but we did get a donation, of course, from Mike Schramm for the bass traps situation, we'll call it. I don't know if it wants to be public because I don't even know if I was supposed to know this, but Mike told me a little bit about what happened with shipping, and it was a little bit more money than I think John expected. But he paid the full freight, and he only told Mike that it was way more than $30. So Mike donated the $30 because that's what John Brock told him to donate. But John paid the full freight to get them to Mike. I don't think Mike has them yet. I haven't heard from that yet. But yeah. So yeah, I mean, John again going above and beyond here. Which is pretty incredible. So our total donations for the month. What?
Carl.
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah.
DJ sleeper hold on Carl Briggs.
See, you know what? And I'll do this little humble brag. If there was a sleeper hold on Carl, he wouldn't be typing. I actually know how to do them.
That's not so much passive aggressive; it's just aggressive. I think.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like.
I think you need to lower your voice if you're going to do that, DJ. If we're going to Liam Neeson this, you've got to do it a little bit more. Give it a bit more of this.
Yeah,
Little
exactly.
menace. Yeah.
I have a set of skills. If you know what
Not
they are.
multitasking.
Yeah. Yeah,
If
exactly.
you know what they are, please let me know.
No. Yeah, exactly. I've been put to sleep so many times. But that's all in the training. And not by movies I'm talking about here. But yeah, all right, back to donations. We are up to 193, so $7 more, people, in the next week. By the time we record next week, if we could get another $7, it'll be a true 50-50. And if not, we'll get a little bit, even more would be great.
It's at 163.
It does, but then we got
plus
30.
Okay,
Yeah,
never
Plus
mind.
the 30, so that's
I
total
didn't
donation.
math today.
You didn't math today? Yeah. See,
No.
I did it, but see, I'm scatterbrained. So what do I know? So it's always good to check on me. So, but yeah, so we're at 193. But next month's going to be a big month. Working on that one right now. But for this month, we are still giving to raise money to fight childhood cancer. The Haymakers for Hope, Brian Curtis. So you can go the links are in the show notes for that as well. You can donate directly or you can give to us, whichever it is. So let's get to giveaways for this month as well. For this week, I should say. What do we got? And speaking of which, I listen to AV Rant every week, as a lot of our listeners do. And we happen to have a resident lawyer on hand. Steve?
Besides Steve?
No.
What do I do now?
No, Steve. What are the legalities on us giving away digital copies?
I'm a criminal defense lawyer. I'm not a copyright lawyer, so therefore I couldn't possibly comment. But
Don't think we're
yeah.
supposed to do it.
yeah,
See,
probably not.
why?
I don't know. I mean, you're not selling them, are you? You're only
No.
giving them to someone else.
Yep.
I mean, the person let's workshop this. But
That's what I wanted
must
to do.
confess that anything that I now say should not be construed as legal advice because I'm not a copyright lawyer or an IP lawyer, an IP man, but not an IP lawyer. The presumably the person that buys the disc is given the license, i.e. that piece of paper which gives you the license to the film. If
Correct.
that person wants to give that license to someone else, I can't see or haven't seen anything in the terms and conditions to suggest otherwise. So I can't imagine that's a problem. If it is, we just have to do it a bit more quietly. But
I'll lower my voice.
Yeah. Shh.
No, and that's because every week they get them from their listeners will donate a movie to them, and they're like, they're like, they joke about it being sketchy, and I'm like, I don't think it's sketchy at all. I think it's no different than me buying a movie. What if I just gave you the whole disc? I'm allowed to do that. Right. So why can't you can give away whatever you want. It's the selling of the product that would be the issue. Correct.
Well, apart from controlled drugs, of course, if you give that to someone, that's still possession with intent to supply and is still an offense.
But the giving away part isn't the illegal part. It's the drug. Right.
Yeah. Well, but when it comes to the movies, I mean, look, what's the worst that can happen? You get a cease and desist at some point. In reality, that's the worst that can happen. But if you are giving it, I can't see the issue. If you were selling it or even asking for donations for it, that might be, you can imagine the studios being like, what the hell are you doing? That's assuming the studios even know who we are. And I dare say they haven't got the Scooby-Doo. Yeah. It would feel quite good. We want to frame the cease and desist, wouldn't we? Validation. We exist.
I know.
So I honestly, I mean,
The most famous thing I could ever do is probably get canceled.
I couldn't even get arrested in this town.
So
So do you know what? It's something I thought about a while ago. I did think, is there a problem? But I mean, one, they don't know we exist. Two, you're not selling them; you're giving them away. I don't think there's an issue with that. But like I said, I'm not. That's not my area of expertise. But the drugs thing, I deal with that quite a bit, as it turns out, professionally. I hasten to add, but not the but not giving away free movies.
That's a digital code, so not a lot of call for that.
Yes, indeed. It's just not as popular.
I figured workshop. I mean, because people have mentioned it in the past, and I know, and it's funny. Every week I'm listening to AV Rant, and it'll come up in one way or another, and they joke about it being sketchy, and I'm always like, is it really that sketchy? Because I think you can just give this stuff away, just giving it away. It's not that big of a deal, and you're promoting the movies as well. So
and it's the same license. It's you're just giving that to someone else. It's not as though you start mass producing this. Very different story,
right?
But within that purchase, inherent is a license to have a digital copy of that film. Yeah, and it doesn't say on there not to be given to anybody else, only to be downloaded by you for your device. I mean, I haven't seen that on there. So I doubt very much that there's an issue with that. But we keep doing it until they tell us not to.
Yep. Looking forward to that day. All right. We have for this week we have 4 new movies. And we have one from John. And we have one from Steve. From John, we have Planet of the Apes, which how long ago did you give me that?
Several
1960.
Yeah, several weeks ago.
Yeah, several weeks ago. He's like, you might have forgot. Yep, I did. So, Steve.
That's out all 4, by the way.
All 4 Planet of the Apes. Yeah. Okay.
Or 3, whatever there were.
Of the newest ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, the trilogy. Oh, they are good. Yeah. They're good discs, good films. Yeah.
Steve donated Puss in Boots, the Last Witch, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then we also from Mark Hader, we got Air Force One, maybe expired, and Interstellar as well. So, but that can happen with any of these because I've warned people in the past. Like sometimes might have given these out twice. I don't know. Sometimes I forget to put the name in of who claimed what, but. These are coming out as Fast and Furious. I'm not saying that one's available. Shouldn't have used that term. I'll take the Fast and Furious. I'm like, oh God, I'll forget what I said.
And for anyone wondering, the Puss in Boots one is the American code, not an English one. It's not out here till July. Okay. So I imported it from the States, so it is the American version. So cool. Anyone wants it? All yours.
Cool. And just to let everybody know, one of our listeners, John knows him well. He comes over he also listened to the chat podcast. BJ, he claimed the Maverick. He had Maverick digital code. He hadn't seen it yet.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and it's like BJ he's been on the podcast. He was a Takeover Tuesday guest. And he's been a big supporter of ours, but he a while ago he had some rough times, so not exactly expanding in on his theater and stuff, and hadn't had a chance to see it. And he's like, "Oh, let's check out what all the hubbub's about." And he took advantage of our digital code, and had a blast with it. So
Awesome.
Glad we could help him out, and glad to see him popping in, saying hi every now and then. So glad we could help you out, BJ. Glad you enjoyed it. Let's see. I'm just getting an email that I am now live on YouTube, so that's good to know.
Thanks, Evan.
Yeah.
just checking.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're live. I don't know. Is my voice cutting through? I don't know.
Get ready, John. It's going to go.
Yeah,
Hope
exactly.
you've got your notes.
That's it. We're ready to take over.
So
Take over Tuesday, totally different style.
Oh, Garinder's in the chat here. I just
Yeah.
noticed that. I haven't
Yeah.
seen him in the chat in a while.
VJ just popped in.
Yeah, VJ
Yeah.
just
Oh.
popped in.
Yeah.
Obviously, John Brock. Yep. Anybody hear Mike Schramm's story about him jumping on? How early he jumps on and what he has to do
Oh, no.
in his podcast today?
No, I
So
didn't get that far.
Oh yeah, he's still at work.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's still at work and he sneaks it up on his phone, and he's a teacher.
Yeah, I heard that.
But yeah. So pretty funny. So yeah.
What is it like?
The
Give me
lengths
20
people
more
go
laps.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So, all right. Let's see, Brand. You ready to get to tweaks of the week? I think that's all we have so far. So we're ready to get to tweaks of the week.
Sure.
Yep.
All right. All right. Let's throw a little more sound in just for fun. Let's see. What do you got, John? You should have a pretty good update, right?
Well, yes and no.
That's too bad.
Yeah, so I did get my projector back last Wednesday after, getting it all readjusted and calibrated. Not calibrated, but, lined up and ready to go. And it had the updates installed. But if I'm being honest, I'm struggling to see much of a difference before and after.
Oh, really?
With the enhanced black level update. Now, I'll preface this by saying I thought the image was fantastic before. So It's not like I felt like it was lacking in any way. But I am struggling to see much of a difference, except in one piece of content that I'll talk about later when we get to our real experiences. In that instance, I felt like it really had a big improvement over what I remember. Again, the issue is that I've been watching my TV for 3 weeks
Yes.
of this program, and so maybe it's not better than it was before. Maybe it just looked better than my TV.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and I haven't had a ton of time to mess around with it because my wife and I, we've just been watching content, and while we're watching TV, she's not into me like flipping things back and forth and
Right.
doing that. But I did watch a couple of discs that I'll talk about later with the 24 FPS mode, and I didn't notice them looking any better or worse than they looked before. And with the black level, there is a toggle to turn it on and off, but I guess my understanding is even when you toggle it, it takes some time for the laser to adjust to the new setting. So it's not like instantaneously where you can just go back and forth and see the difference right away. And and like I said, I haven't had a ton of time on my own to really mess around with it. But all that being said, it's back. I'm happy. It still looks great. I'm still very satisfied with the image that I get. And so I'm just going under the assumption that the update improved it slightly, even though I'm not necessarily seeing a big drastic difference in the picture quality. So And maybe that's something that some different settings will bring out more. But I did up the brightness over what I was previously using, because that is supposed to help with that. And, and again, it doesn't seem to be that different, but,
it's also tough because you lost the projector for a couple weeks.
Exactly. And I'm also not in a completely light controlled environment,
Right.
like I
Well,
do
that's
have
why you
ambient
have
light.
that. Yeah.
I am watching during the day. I'm watching at night. And for Paul, it's the AWOL Vision, ultra short throw short throw projector, is what I have. So yeah, I mean, happy to be back, but yeah, not noticing a lot of difference.
Okay. Yeah, because when you do an A/B test, it's called an A/B test, not an A/B
Right.
test.
Right. And that's the whole thing. If it takes, and for me, even if it takes like a minute to adjust to the new settings, I've already forgot what it looked like before.
Right.
So it's,
we'll talk a little bit. I got some content this week too when we get to our experiences in that I did a lot of A/B-ing with, and there is a difference there, but
Right.
it's a pretty substantial difference too. But once you're into something, you forget how better or worse it is than the other version you had. And it's not until you go back to it. And that's where you get into, it's like all the upgrades that we do, are they really worth it? And at the end of the day, I have to say no, but it is what we like to do. So then it is worth it to us. But the substantial upgrades that we think we're getting, they're not substantial anymore because it's percentages, right? It's just this little bit, and you're like, but
these
it's
things
the overall
are,
experience.
and you guys, you and Mike talked about this earlier too, when you were talking about your Lumagen and you're calibrating the TVs and the projectors. It's like, they're already so good.
Yeah.
Right out of the box that, these little minor improvements that you're getting are really hard to detect or even justify in some cases, when there's a cost associated with them. But yeah, like I said,
it's what we like to do.
Right.
So, speaking of A/B-ing, Tom Davis DM me this week, and he says, "Hey DJ, really looking forward to your speaker shootouts. I have a Boston acoustic system that I've had since I worked at an AV store back in the 90s. Heard a lot of NHTs back then, and from what I remember, they are very similar to Boston's. I've been wanting to upgrade since I finally have a dedicated room now, but it's so hard to read, in quotes, how something sounds. Good luck." And yeah, it's funny that he's had the same speakers, and this got me to thinking, and I know I've told it before, but the last time I did a speaker shootout was my NHTs, and it was my, Dave, my Laserdisc guy, had me come in and bring my speakers in, and they were the Bose Acoustimass setups, and he was offended, let's just say, because they were just like I said, I don't know who I talked to. It might be next week's podcast that I did with Paul or Mike. I don't remember, but we were talking about just that, and that Bose doesn't put out their statistics. They don't put out any of the frequency responses or anything. So that's when he taught me all that stuff. And we did an A/B test, and he showed me all the things to listen for and to hear the differences and what neutral means and what these speakers are doing and what this system is doing and blah, 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 blah. And that was almost 30 years ago. Right. The last time I actually A/B'd a set for myself. Right. And I've heard different speakers, but this is going to be a lot of fun. But as far as my tweaks go and the questions and comments, keep them coming. It's keeping me entertained. And it's fun to read the enthusiasm that people have for me doing this. But just know that it is a slow process. I am super busy and I have a good, analogy, or not even analogy. It's literally what's going on. Danny Speakers lives like 20 minutes away from me, and he wants to come down and hang out in the room. and he commented on that today, talking about, oh, I'm 20 minutes away and I can't get into this room. Those SVS speakers are in the boxes just outside of my room, and they can't get in the room. It's like, I've got 4 rainy days in a row coming up, and I'm going to be working at my daughter's house, building her house, redoing her house for her. So it's like all of my spare time is gone. So when I get to it, I will get to it, and we're going to have fun with it. But yes, keep me entertained, keep emailing the comments, suggestions and stuff like that, but we will get to it. Danny speakers will get into the room, and the SVS speakers will get into the room. So, but looking forward to it more than you guys know, more than I can express. So, all right. Steve, I'm sorry, George, any tweaks for you this week?
Actually, I kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not even in the
it.
notes. I was just guessing.
No, I know. Yeah. Well, I don't know if it counts as a tweak or not, because actually it'd be interesting to see if you've had an issue this week. My Harmony Elite, the multi-remote thing, developed a bit of a fault this week. It was very weird because as I think people will know, and I know you know, I've got an iPad mini in the cinema room that I use to control it. I don't use the Harmony Elite remote control. That's in the cinema room, just sat on its little cradle, and it's never been used. It's literally just sat there. I'd say gathering dust, but as you know, nothing in my room's got dust on it.
No.
So it's just sat there, but I never use it. I've never ever used it. I wouldn't even know how. So I've got an iPad mini, and I use between that and my phone, because the iPad mini is on the wall, and I use that and my phone. And what I found this week, rather weirdly, is it's got a widget on it, so you can slide across on the phone to then turn everything on and do the lights and everything else. And that would work. But then when I went into the main app, as it were, the Harmony app, that would not work. It was kept trying to find the hub, and it was driving me slightly crazy. And then the phone would work, and then the iPad wouldn't, and then the iPad would work, and then the phone wouldn't. So that was a bit of a pain. So I had to do some investigative work on that. But the widget worked fine. So I could not work out. So the widget worked, but the app wouldn't. And then sometimes the two would work. And that's really unusual, because the one thing I think we'd all agree with the Harmony stuff is it tends to work flawlessly.
It's like rock solid all the time.
Yeah, it's pretty rare that something would go wrong. So I had to do some investigative work on that. And in the end, I reset the router, the little Harmony hub thing. I just reset that, and then after some time, it worked okay. So whether they've just done some updates on it, I don't know, or whether there's been any update to the app, because you don't use the app. Do you use the remote?
I use the remote exclusively. Yeah. I use the app to start it up, but
okay, yeah. Oh, have you got the Harmony as well? Have you, John?
I have just the hub. So I mean, I have an older Harmony Elite, I believe. It might be the same one you have.
Yeah.
But I bought recently the Harmony hub, and I use that exclusively through the app on my phone. So
yeah, I mean, it's normally really good, isn't it? I mean, it works.
It is, but there are lots of days where I'll come in and it'll search for the connection for a minute or two, and I'll have to wait for it to time out and hit rescan, and then it'll find it the second time around. I don't know if that's just the network or what
exactly.
it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's rare that it happens with me. It really is. I mean, it's like the Philips Hue. You just assume it's going to work. I mean, it's so dependable. It's fine. And so and between the phone and the iPad, and I just kind of switch between them, whichever's closer. It's fine. I find them generally really good, but just this week it just started to have an issue. But I reset the hub, and then it was okay, and it's worked fine. And I've had issues in the past where they've updated it, and then for a couple of days there's a problem. But because my problem is, of course, and indeed you'd have the same thing, is if this hub thing isn't working, then I can't use the remote separately because all the equipment's in another room. So I'd have to stand in the doorway to the equipment room, pointing the remotes at the equipment rack.
I don't have that. Mine's all connected with a Niles jumper. So my hub is actually in my room. So if I need to, I can use all my remotes in my room. I just have to point them at the front wall where I have the sensor up on the front wall, and then that sends a signal to all of my gear in the rack.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah, mine just can't. I'd have to literally stand in the doorway of the equipment
Yeah.
room.
I
to
hate
turn the
that.
volume up and down. Oh,
Yeah.
it
I do
feels
that
really
when
weird.
I get a new piece and I haven't run a sensor yet, so I'll stand in the doorway and be like, and your doorway's at the back, so at least
Yeah.
you're in the back. Mine's at the sun. Like I gotta be like,
Of course.
look in, look
Yeah.
out. Oh, did it work? Did it work?
Yeah, so that was a bit of a pain, but it's so unusual that it happened. It was a day or so, and then, as I said, reset the router, which is no easy thing because the hub's right at the back of it's on top of the equipment rack behind the stormtrooper helmets and all that stuff. That's all got to come off, and then I've got to reconnect it all, and so that's a pain.
And you knew how to do all that, Steve? Look at you.
Hey, this is
know.
learning, growth.
You know how to do all that. You just choose not to.
Well, if I can avoid it, if it ain't broke, don't mess with it.
Exactly.
But this one was, so I did have to. But I try and avoid it as much as I can. I know you guys love messing about with this stuff. I like watching it and listening to it and enjoying it.
Yeah.
You guys like to piss around with it, and that's fair enough.
We're always looking to tweak. We're always looking to improve.
Yeah.
I don't want to just I don't mess around. Well, I do. I mess around with my remote every now and then. I'll be like, but I'll add a new feature to it. But I haven't, knock on wood, I haven't had an issue in a while with my remote. Now the thing's just going to fail.
Yeah,
completely.
You said something.
I'm just getting a call from fate a moment. I'll just
exactly.
But yeah, no. Whereas I dread the day. I hate it when something goes wrong with it. You guys just go, oh yeah, let's mess with it for days on end. Whereas to me, it's like, oh God's sake, right? Okay, what is it now? I just want to enjoy it.
Yep. Yep. So, all right. All right. You ready to get to listener experiences?
Sure.
We've got a few this week. All right. Let's go. All right. Here we go. We have first up Danny Speakers. Hope you guys have better luck than me getting into that theater on Twitter today. So I thought I threw that in there just to remind me of that comment. So I thought that was funny. He's like, I'm only a couple towns away, not big towns. What I like about that is that he realizes we're talking to like people around the world, and towns could be really big, and that could be like,
it could be Houston.
2 hours away. Yeah, exactly. It'd be like the time we were out there, and you were like, I'm like, oh, San Antonio, it's only a few towns that way. Yeah, that's 3 hours.
It's 3 hours away, but it's only a few towns.
Right. So he goes, I'm only a couple of towns away, not big towns, and I can't get in there. It's like the Lucas Ranch. Woo, I've made it. He's like, only the lucky get to see behind the curtain. LOL. Well, there is no curtain. There used to be. I had curtains in there at one time. John has been in there.
I have.
So John, but you were in there before the current
before
projector.
the Lumagen, before the
4K.
It was 2020?
No, 2019. You were in here in
Has it been that long?
2019. Yeah, just before. I didn't have this podcast yet.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
you're right.
Yeah. And you were in there months before I got the current projector.
That's right, because I remember you got it shortly after I left.
Yeah. And because you complained so much.
I did. I said, this is crap, man. How can you have this room and this just subpar projector in here?
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. Some semantic question, fellas.
What's that?
I thought you say drapes, not curtain.
No, we say crate. Crate.
Curtains.
Curtains. They're lovely for breakfast. Yeah. You guys, don't you say drapes?
I mean, it's
My
used
mom might.
here, but we always say curtains.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair.
I really don't use the word that often, period.
I don't use either one, but
I know. Blinds, close the blinds. I don't know. It's
okay.
Usually only comes up at certain times of the day when John and I like to run around the house in a certain way.
Yeah. My blinds are always closed.
Probably for the best.
Yes.
All right. Who wants to take the next one?
Well, it's
Do you want
about
to-
Steve, so but
Yeah, do you want me to do it then? Do you want me
yeah,
to read
there
it?
you go.
Okay. So this is Jonah Fish 75. He was commenting on, I think it was the last episode, it must have been. And Jonah Fish says, I really hope the title you're talking about, Steve, is Barbarian. That would be a perfect fit for Scream Factory to put out. So a little bit of context then for those that might not have seen last one or missed this particular bit of it. I was talking about Disney licensing some of their movies and one particular film that we know is coming. That's the three of us, because I've told you guys off air, but it hasn't yet been publicly or acknowledged or there's been no press release yet. I'm sorry, Jonah Fish, it's not Barbarian. Sorry for you, not sorry for me. I hated Barbarian, but yeah.
And I thought Barbarian was Warner's anyways, wasn't it?
No, it's Fox. It's Fox. Well, it's on Disney Plus in the UK.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so
because here
I think it is Fox.
It's on HBO Max.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. Okay, well, yeah, it's Disney Plus here, but I thought it was terrible. But a lot of people really did like it. So, but yeah, I'm sorry to burst your bubble, Jonah Fish. At least as far as I'm aware, that's not one of them anyway, and it's certainly not the title that I was referring to very obliquely on the last occasion. And again, I can't reveal it. I can't say it because the person that told me, I suspect wasn't allowed to tell me. And so, and until it's public knowledge, then I don't think it's right that we mention it either. But it is something cool. That is what I will say.
It is. It is. It's not only is it cool, I think it's something that when it does hit, when the news breaks, it's going to provide a lot of hope for people. Right?
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Mhm.
People will be like, wow, that's awesome. And I can pretty much guarantee you're not going to see it coming. You're not seeing this one coming, because I didn't when you told me.
No, well, quite.
You know what I mean?
I think to a certain extent,
I think we hoped.
Slightly been forgotten.
We
about.
all do. We've
But
talked about it, but it has been since forgotten.
Now we're
I
those
think so.
guys that have
we
inside
can't.
knowledge and talk about stuff, and everybody just
Gets
wants
annoyed.
to know. Yeah, it gets annoyed at us.
Yeah, but because as soon as we get a press release, then we can talk about it, and we'll all talk about how excited we are, as we did when the night I told you. But yeah, it's not cool to tell tales out of school publicly, because I don't want to get anyone else in trouble. And the person that told me works for Disney and very in a senior position and knows. And so I don't want to get anybody in trouble.
And presumably you want to keep hearing more stuff. And
correct. And that's what I was just going to say. John and I went through this with chat.
Right.
We got some inside stuff, and we talked, and we did exactly what we're doing here, and we did the right thing. Somebody else didn't, and all of us that were in on it were shut off. And we were never given the information again. And the guy that basically the person that was you, Steve, at the time was really angry because it wasn't him that spoiled it. So it'd be like if I went out and I said something and they were like, you heard it from him, and you'd get shut off. And be like, and now you're excommunicado now because I opened my mouth.
John Wick is coming out too.
And it's like, that's not fair. So people take this seriously, and it's, when somebody tells you something in confidence, it's fun to talk about from our perspective too, because it's like, hey, we're lucky enough, like you're lucky enough, and we're lucky enough to have you, that you're getting some information, and when we get it, and you want to be a trusted source. But it's not a bad thing to tease it out either, because it's like there's things happening, and it's fun to know.
Yeah. And look, I'm angling for an invite to the Dial of Destiny premiere, so I really don't want to upset anyone.
Don't blame you.
I hear good things, fellas. Good things about it.
Yeah.
And
I
again,
hope.
take it from
Fingers crossed.
Take it from me. This person is in the perfect position to know.
Yep. So, nice.
Yeah. So yeah.
Cool.
Good stuff. Right. Alrighty. So that's that one. So thanks, Jonah Fish. Sorry to burst your bubble about Barbarian.
John, you want to take the next two? The same.
I was just say I'll take the next two because they're both from Jack Leah.
Yeah, you've got to do it in an Australian accent, though, John.
Yeah,
I can't do that. Crikey.
You're right. You can't.
Yeah. So, at Brightside HT, I just finished listening to Takeover Tuesday with Todd Anderson, and you mentioned listeners getting all the way through episodes. I'm an underground concrete truck driver. I download the episodes and always get through them. Some days I'll do a Tuesday and a Friday show in one day. And then he follows up. I'm thinking just a different response to a different thread, but this one says, yeah, man, for sure. I may be your furthest listener. Also, I'm from Adelaide, South Australia, unless you have any from the East Coast of Australia. So
that was all the same thread. I'm pretty sure
was it?
people were talking like where they were.
Okay.
And I had thanked him for that tweet, but and then I replied to this one like, I may be your furthest away unless you're on the, like you said, the East Coast of Australia. And I'm like, don't you eventually start getting closer to us again?
Right.
Because you can go around the world.
Yeah.
It's like,
You can just go the other way.
Exactly. Like, but yeah, when I got that first one, and this is the stuff that I talk about with the people that want, there are people that want shorter shows. There are people that want longer shows. And it's like, we do what we do. And there are people that appreciate it all, and you break it up. And, but that was great. And it's, I mean, I figured he wasn't from this country when I got the first tweet, because I'm like, an underground.
Yeah, I want to know what an
driver.
underground concrete truck driver is. Like,
yeah,
is this sort of illicit concrete? Is it sort of, it's on the black market?
That's right.
No. I'm bearing in mind it's in Australia. I'm getting Mad Max
bootleg
vibes.
concrete.
No, but I went. My mind immediately went to Die Hard 3 when they were driving the truck underneath the tunnel. And I was like, I went literal, right? And then, but now I like your take on like underground concrete. Like, hey, buddy, I got some concrete over here.
He flips open his jacket.
Yeah,
we can barely lift it.
I got some concrete over here.
I got some
spackle over here.
Oh crap! Now it's a rock. It's right. I mean, you only have it for so long.
Like I said, I'm picturing Mad Max. It's in Australia, but instead of sort of oil and bullet farms, it's concrete farms.
Yeah,
and you can see them doing that. Yeah, driving these trucks, and the trucks all look cool, and there's people playing flaming guitars on top of them, but they're delivering concrete. That's how I'm imagining it.
There you go.
I think I've seen Fury Road too much.
I want to see your movie, Steve.
That's it. We'll get it Kickstarter going.
All right,
there you go. But yeah, that was great, Jack. Glad we're entertaining you for what could be like 6 hours a day.
6 to 7 hours at a stretch.
At a stretch.
My problem is, what does he do the other 4 days?
I know. Well, I know. We're working on it.
Now, I think, isn't Adriano in Sydney? That's East Coast. So I think he may be further east. Yeah, well, if he's Sydney, it definitely is. I've been to Sydney a few times.
Yeah.
So he would be East Coast. But I'm not 100% sure. I think he's in Sydney.
Yeah.
So he would be the furthest that way. But didn't you guys say you had a listener in New Zealand? That'll be further on again.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and not just a contributor from New Zealand, a listener in New Zealand.
Right.
New Zealand,
Yeah.
So that's further on again.
Yeah, and eventually you're getting back to being closer to us again, aren't you? I'm like, I don't know, where's the cutoff?
It's like Christmas Island.
I don't know.
Something like that.
Crazy. Yeah.
Are on the globe, so
yeah, we're right around. It's like
we'll get to the penguins, and then we know we've gone too far. Yeah.
Well, not really road.
Yeah. Well, underground concrete trip.
Yeah. Woo. I think now might be a good time to break out the little conversation that we've had off air. I talked about with Mike Schramm because I wasn't sure when we were going to bring it up, but this is kind of it. What do listeners think of what I talked about with Mike on Tuesday's podcast about us breaking up the episodes and the schedule being so it would be Thursdays would be this section. It would be the listeners, taking over basically, but it would be the listener section, listener experiences on Thursdays. Our HT experiences would come out every Friday as a podcast. And then on Monday, we would do the 4K releases that would be coming out the following day. So you would get that and then Tuesday would be typical Takeover Tuesday. And then Wednesday's off. This live show would be the live show every Tuesday. So you could take part in that. And then I would then put out these segments a day a week. And then you'd be all set. You could you could save them all up, or you could break them up, or you could do whatever. But what do listeners think of that? And because it's really not that much more work for me. If anything, I just cut it, boom, produce it, and put it out. That would be the audio only, though. Those would be the audio podcasts, because the video's all here on YouTube. So, what do listeners think of that?
So on the Friday, Deej, would you put out the full
TJ8311? That's a great idea. Okay.
Well, and Brock has a comment too, right above it,
Hmm.
making sure you keep it organized so they know which parts link to which full episodes.
Which parts, episodes? What do we mean by that?
Well, like this is the live episode number 265. So when you put out listener experiences, it should say listener experiences episode 265.
It'll be in the show notes. Yeah, it'll be in the show notes. Yep.
Right.
That's easy to do. That would be like, okay, this is from live episode such and such, listener experiences from here.
Because once we get 6 months away, people won't know what relates back to what.
Right. Yep. No, good point. But it's also a way for like the audio people to understand that like we have a YouTube and vice versa. So, but each show would have would have the open, and then we just come right into our section. You just roll right in, kind of like Takeover Tuesdays. There's no, hey, home theater, we just roll right into that. So, but yeah, so we'll see if enough people, if I don't hear any negatives, then I'll definitely do it. But if if the positives weigh out, then we'll do it. So,
well, and the positive is if we ever get monetized, we have 4 shows a week going up for people to listen to instead of 1.
Well,
so,
that's the whole clicks thing and all of that.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't know if that's much of a difference, because like for our YouTube, for instance, it's like our clicks are pretty high because it's such a long show, and every time you stop and come back, that's a click, right? So unless you're listening to it completely all the way through, that'd just be 1. So I'm not concerned with that. Like I said,
I know you're not, because you told Mike that you're not concerned at all with growing the show, but
well, that's kind of misleading. It's like, I do want the show to grow, but like I said, like I said to Mike, I just want to find the right people,
right? Quality over quantity.
Exactly. I don't care about having huge numbers. Like oh, we got this many people. It's like, I mean, think of all the listeners we have that interact with us now. And like John and I have said many times, the difference between here and chat is huge.
Right. And
the listenership is relatively the same. I think this is a little bigger now, but it was relatively the same. And this is huge. It's great interaction. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for huge numbers.
Right.
If it got huge, that'd be great, as long as everybody was interacting and getting along and having a good time. So
I'm never going to be able to quit my job if we don't get this thing off the ground. So.
I know. Oh, all right. Next comment we have from Carl. So he emailed us, and he was talking about, he sent me an email on leasing appliances. And basically he got an email or something about, there's an opportunity, and he's really into cooking and something like maybe even you, John, would like this too, where you can upgrade your appliances. And he was saying like, look, they have it for this, and he would be interested in that. And he was relating it to the comment that I made a little while back about leasing gear, home theater gear. Right. And like we lease a projector or some of this stuff that gets upgraded every couple of years. We're buying it, and then maybe there's an opportunity there, and it'd be really cool to see that happen. I think. I mean, I don't know. I think it would be better business for both sides. I think they could actually move more product that way. Get people in on a used piece later, like after we've used it for 2 or 3 years, and then you buy a used piece cheaper. I feel like it would be I don't know, a better way to move more product and get more people exposed to the hobby, because it makes an easier entrance than
Carl.
What's that?
Hang on, you actually read my emails.
Oh my God. You should see the one. He sent one yesterday. I showed my wife. I was like, look at this. And I'm scrolling.
Chapter 4.
Oh,
Yeah.
4. My God. Moby Dick was shorter. It's like, but yes, I do scan them. I'll say that.
Just to find out who did it
No,
at the end.
I think this would be great in both cases, in the home theater world and in this case, the kitchen appliance world. Because imagine it's just like leasing a car. Every 3 years you're getting the greatest and newest and greatest, and like you said, the company is still going to turn around and sell that 3-year-old appliance for whatever they're going to get for it after they've already made more. Because in theory, leasing it would probably cost the consumer more than it would cost just to buy it outright. Right. So,
well, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Like if I don't like when you lease a car, you don't necessarily pay the full price of the car by the time the end of the lease is done. If you want to buy it outright, you can. So that's the idea, is like you're getting a value out of it by paying less, and you're paying monthly instead of having to outlay all that money up front.
Right.
Whereas in like the example I used is like, if the option was there for me to get, like when I bought my projector, it was the MSRP was $5,000 and then it went on sale for $4,000. So I jumped on that.
Right.
But if it was a matter of, all right, you can outlay $4,000 right now for this projector, or you could have this 2 models up for $250 a month for the next 3 years. Duh. Right. And I'd be like, all right. And then you could buy it outright if you wanted, or then you upgrade to the next one. And I'd be like, okay, because I'm already outlaying that money as trying to save for the next one anyways. But now you're getting a better projector. And I did the numbers, and it comes out to something like it would actually work.
Yeah.
Like, for both sides.
The only downside is you're never done, right? Like you're never done paying for something.
But we are never done in this hobby. Well, that's the point. And that's why I think it would, there's a certain, like, how many of us are still running our CRT TVs, right? We've all upgraded. We're all looking to, especially in this hobby. I mean, it works in the car market because you're never done owning a car. You always need a car, right? And it's like, I mean, I leased once. We leased my wife's truck once. I'll never do that again.
Yeah, I don't do it. Right. I don't ever do that with my cars either.
Right.
But my sister does. She leases every car she owns, but she's never done paying. My car's been paid off for 2 years, and now I don't have a car payment on it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
now, earlier on, when my kids were like active and I was paying a lot for my kids, they're out of the house now, I probably wouldn't have taken that deal, because I would have been like, I might not be able to afford this in a year or two, right? Because who knows whatever cost will come up with them. I didn't have as much disposable income monthly. So I'd be like, all right, I'll outlay this now, knowing that I have the security of owning that for however long I need to own it.
Right.
But right now, I'm like, I mean, there's reasons for both sides of you choosing either side, I should say, right? So I just think there's an opportunity there that could be, it could be fun for us, and it'd be nice.
I would definitely do it with like a projector or something like that. I wouldn't
receivers,
do it with my car,
projectors,
but
I wouldn't do it with speakers.
Right, because again, speakers you don't have to change every 3 years.
Right. So yeah, but all right. All right. I sent you this. I meant to put this picture in the thing, but it's a Boba Fett, and it's a Honda Fit. And the license plate says Boba Fett, which is pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
Sorry, meant to put that picture in the show, but didn't make it.
Yeah.
So
it was just for us. That one's just for us, guys.
So, okay. Sorry, everybody. Steve, you want to read this next one?
Yeah. So this is from Deepak B, commenting on the video again from the last episode, the home theater experience from the core. And Deepak says he appreciates implementing the timestamp and movie covers with a clapping and thumbs up emoji.
Yeah. So, yep. people enjoying the new graphics. We got some new graphics coming today as well. I'm expanding on my graphic technology. So thank you for noticing and thank you for commenting. And the timestamps always helpful. And if we divide it out, it'll be even easier. Just go to Thursdays if you want to listen to listener experiences. And look, Jack Lee.
Yeah, so it's in my contract that I can only read Jack Leah's comments.
Well, you are called
from
Jack. Your
Yeah.
family calls you Jack, so
Yeah.
that's why we arranged it this way.
I see. This is in reference to the home theater experience, the core in 4K. From Jack, cheers for reading out my tweet, but you didn't put the Discord link in the show notes. Can't wait till next week's shows. I'm all caught up again. So I don't remember that Discord link. But
Me neither.
oh, yes, I do.
We talked about it.
Yes, I do. Yeah, now that
And when I
now
got
that you
that,
say that.
when I got that email, because I get all the YouTube messages through email
Right. It was
automatically.
like a home theater enthusiasts Discord group. Or,
Yes.
Yeah.
From in Australia.
Right.
So I immediately went to the YouTube and I went, you might want to check our show notes because I added it right away.
Oh.
I was like, but no, Jack, thank you very much for mentioning that because that happens all the time. I'm like, and John and I joked about it before. Not a lot of people read our show notes or any show notes, not just us. It's like everybody. I've put messages in there before, like haha, and nobody comments on it, like bad jokes. And like John made the comment like he used to do to his employees, he'd give out a free Coke if they got to this part, and they never.
Yeah,
nobody
if they ever read
caught
it in the notes, they could
Yep.
just come and get it, and nobody
Yep.
ever collected.
Nope, because
So-
nobody reads it. So, but yeah, call me out on it if I've said I've done something in the show notes and it doesn't make it. Just let me know, and I can always add after the fact. So, thank you very much. And that's to anybody that like if I said I did something and you go to find and click on it and it's not there, just let me know. Just let me know. Van Gool, also from the core last week, says, I agree with speed. 4K better than Blu-ray, but not referenced like Steve says. Unstoppable is a favorite of mine, but Blu-ray could look better. It is a Fox movie, so might never see a 4K release.
But it might.
But with the news we're hearing lately,
Yeah.
Maybe it will.
How do you read that email? This is where we need punctuation, right? So, because when I read that, I couldn't quite work it out. So, is he saying, so I agree with speed. The 4K is better than Blu-ray, but not reference like Steve says, or is it not reference like Steve says?
Yeah,
Because I don't think I called it reference, did I? I don't think I did. I wouldn't say it's reference.
No, I think you were saying that it wasn't referenced.
Yeah.
So
he was
agreeing
agreeing
with
with
me,
you.
not
yeah, he's
disagree.
agreeing with you. Yeah.
Yeah. I know what you're saying, Steve, but yeah, it's the emails that I've received over the years from people, and my wife's an English teacher, and Rob H and I have talked about this, and it's like, because he takes them and he retranslates them, because sometimes you'll get emails from people, especially where it's all over the world, and people have different grasps of the language and stuff, and there's no punctuation, no capitalization, no nothing. You're just like, okay, and you've got to put in your own things. It's like, yeah, but
I read it a few times, and again, I was a bit worried I was having a GB Afterlife moment.
yeah.
The sequel, by the way, which started filming yesterday. But I was
Afterlife.
Yeah, so as I was reading that, I'm thinking, so did I say it was reference? I didn't think I did. And then the more I read it, I thought, oh, no. He's saying that I didn't. All right, okay.
Infer
Anyway.
from context, not from commas, I guess. BJ commenting, I know I'm late to the game, but Maverick was amazing. Like I said earlier, thank you, Brightside HT. And John, you want to take Blue Wave?
Sure. Blue Wave. This is on the home theater experience 4K as well. I mean the core in 4K rather. Great show, guys. Thanks for the review on The Girl with All the Gifts. I think I'll pick that one up. I recently purchased the 4K version of Gemini Man and watched it for the first time. Fantastic Atmos track. Great bass, surround effects were solid, and soundstage expanded at all the right times. The one negative thing about the disc is the high frame rate, 60 FPS video presentation. Steve now has a fellow hater in that department. It brought me right out of the experience several times throughout the film. It was quite jarring. Luckily, the 4K version also comes with the Blu-ray version that contains the traditional 24 frames per second presentation. I think I'll be opting for this version the next time I watch it, since it comes with the same great Atmos track.
I've never seen it.
No.
I can't, because of the HFR thing, and that was kind of its reason for being, a bit like Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk.
Right.
Right.
You know, as I understood it, its whole reason for being is that it's Ang Lee going, "Ooh, look at HFR."
Right.
And I saw some clips. There's some on YouTube of it, and it has all the problems that I've got with HFR, and so I've never seen. And also, the reviews weren't exactly kind either. So I've just thought, you know what, I'm not even going to bother. And even with the Blu-ray and normal 24 frames per second, I'm just not going to support this. But you guys have seen it, have you? I know you have, Deej.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen it as well. It was mediocre.
What's it like? Oh, really? So no.
I mean, the
worse.
movie itself. The movie I thought was mediocre at best.
Oh, okay. Fine.
HFR. I mean, it definitely. I think the difference is, like, when you were complaining about it with Avatar, it was more the fact that it was jumping in and out all the time, where this movie is entirely shot in that. And so once you kind of get used to it at the very beginning, it's not really jarring as you're watching it, because it doesn't keep changing back and forth. But I've mentioned it before. I'm not the biggest Will Smith fan in general. I don't really like him or his movies. And I found this one to be okay, but not fantastic. So,
what about you, Deej?
I liked it. I liked the movie. There was a decent, I thought, a fun message with it, like the idea of the technology, which goes hand in hand with the HFR and stuff. My opinion has always been the same of HFR, is that, I mean, the only reason we're at 24 is because it was the cheapest. And if they had the money 100 years ago to do 60, we'd all be going, why the hell are we doing 24? That's so jittery, right? It's like, it's just, that's not what we're used to. And I like that Ang Lee's doing what he's doing. I like people that push the envelope. Doesn't mean we all have to love it or anything like that, but I'm always of the idea that it's just because we're not used to it. Right. And not only that, you also get the soap opera effect when you're talking about, when you put that on your, and that's been especially to home theater people, that's always been considered a huge no-no, a huge negative. You never do that. Well, now you have, directors, artists giving it to you like 100%. You can't shut it off. And you're like, wait a minute, I was told that's a no-no. You're starting at a negative and you're like, I don't like it. I liked it. I liked the detail. I like it. It's an obstacle too for the actors. It's an obstacle for the directors. The technology the things you have to do to meet that level of detail in your special effects and stuff like that. I just think it heightens everything. And while maybe it's not being executed in the best way right now, who knows what it's going to do in the future. And I mean, we need people doing stuff like this. So we can't stay at 24 forever, or just 24 forever. You can have more than one.
Well, yeah. I mean, I saw The Desolation of Smaug in HFR. That was all HFR. There was no chopping and changing with that. And that's where I just thought there's something wrong here. I think it's broken, just was so wrong and weird, and everything looked fake. And again, the more real it looks, the faker it looks. Just there's a strange thing there. Yeah. So then Avatar came along and was the worst of both worlds, because it was chopping and changing, and just again and again and again. But this one, I don't know. I don't really want to support the technology, so I can't bring myself to buy it. I've had the 4K disc in hand several times in the shop, and thought, ooh, shall I give it a go? It's dirt cheap. It's only like £10. Shall I? And each time I thought, nope, not doing that. And had the reviews been a bit better, because I quite like Will Smith prior to what happened last year at the Oscars. I quite like him. I mean, Independence Day is really good. I like iRobot, and he's a good dramatic actor. He's been in some decent films, and the Bad Boys movies and all that stuff. So I do quite like him, but I get why people don't. But when the reviews hit with this, as they did, and again there were people saying that the HFR is distracting, and I watched a couple of clips on YouTube that have got it, and again it just looks like the same issues that it has with everything else. So I can't bring myself to watch it. I don't think, not even on Netflix or Amazon Prime. I've skipped past it even on that, and that's not in HFR. So yeah, it's just one of those things. But yeah, I mean, Blue Wave, just to talk about the first sentence of that email, yeah, The Girl with All the Gifts is definitely worth picking up. Very interesting film, that one. Lots of discussions will be had with anyone that you watch it with. It's it's really good.
Cool. All right. I think you would actually, if you like Will Smith and you like that, I think you'd like the movie if it's not in HFR. And like he said, the Atmos track is on the Blu-ray. So, and the Atmos is really good.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's dirt cheap. I mean, I could pick it up for a couple of pounds of the Blu-ray, but again, it's like, do I need to? I've got so much other great stuff. Do I want to watch something that I know I'm probably not going to think a lot of?
Right. Well, that's what I like about this movie is like, it's actually gets into like, it doesn't talk about HFR, but it's technology against technology. And like, should they do, just because you can, should you?
Yeah, quite, yeah.
So it's kind of fun that way. But all right. What we got coming up next is coming soon. We ready?
Ready?
Yep. We got a lot this week.
Oh yeah.
All right. First up, from 1990, The Exorcist 3 in 4K.
Never seen it.
I haven't either.
Have you guys? But you guys would have seen The Exorcist, I'm assuming.
I'm really looking forward to that release later this year. No, Exorcist. The original is coming out, I believe, at Halloween sometime. In October.
Yeah,
I don't know if I've seen 3. I know I've seen the first 2.
Same here. I'm pretty sure I saw the second one. I know I've never seen 3. I didn't even know it existed till I had to make this graphic. No, really.
There are some. I've heard people say that 3 is very good indeed. There are some that think it's better than the first.
Really?
So I've heard good things about it, but I'm someone who doesn't find the idea of kind of possession and demonic possession all that scary or really all that interesting. So it's never been really high on my radar of kind of movies to absolutely watch at the first one or second or third. I've seen the first. I don't think I've seen the second or third one. But yeah. So, but I have heard good things.
Well, I might have to check it out if it's got good. Like I said, I don't know if I've ever seen it, but I do like. I really like the first one.
Well, it says right on the cover. It says from the creator of the original Exorcist. So,
right.
I mean, you can't get a better endorsement than that.
There's a film reviewer here called Mark Kermode. He's very well known in the UK. He's one of the UK's premier reviewers, and he is an Exorcist super fan. And he's made documentaries about the Exorcist, and he's very close to the creators of it. And he is one of the people who said Exorcist 3 is as good, if not better, than the original. So it's worth checking out. So if you like the first one, hopefully it's good. Although I've got no idea what happens in it.
All right.
I would assume there's a possession and an
old priest and a young priest.
Yeah,
we know there's steps in it.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
We see that. Oh, all right. Next up from 1973, The 5 Days. Never even heard of this.
I've never heard of it either.
Neither.
Dario Argento.
Yeah, never heard of this one. So
it's cool though, isn't it, that these sorts of movies are getting 4K releases?
Yes.
Isn't that something that three of us with our combined movie knowledge, and none of us have ever heard of it, never, and yet this are getting released. So it's a good sign, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, just looking at the cover art, it looks like an Emilio Estevez Chevy Chase vehicle,
Yeah.
which they don't even coincide, those two, especially from 73. Emilio Estevez was probably 3.
Born.
Not born.
Yeah. Maybe born or not born. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was 3. So
Yeah. So, all right. This is a big one, boys. We're really
oh yeah.
looking forward to
Very
this one.
jealous.
All
Very
Quiet on the
jealous.
Western Front. Netflix says it on. Now, was this made exclusively for Netflix, or was this made and then put on Netflix knowing that we'd be getting the disc?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. I think it was made and then sold to Netflix. And
Okay.
whether part of the original contract was that, there would be a physical release if they wanted, I don't know. But I think it was shot and then sold. I don't think it was a Netflix production, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But I'm very jealous because you guys get this next week. We don't get it until the 3rd week of April.
Oh, wow.
So we have to wait and suffer while you guys enjoy this. So, and it's and unfortunately,
well, if it makes you feel better, that's probably when I'll be buying it. So,
all right. So there you go, Dean. You're not allowed to talk about it until we've all seen it. Yeah. There you go. Moratorium. But yeah, and it's one of those really awkward release windows where it's 3 weeks. So what that means is it's not worth importing it because it could take 3 weeks to get here. So it's one of those it's all right when it's 2 or 3 months, like Puss in Boots, not out till July here. So that's worth importing to get it early, get it soon as possible. Whereas this, it's just not worth it. It's no point me importing it because I won't get it in time, or I might not. So yeah, I've just got to sit in silence and huff and puff because I can't wait for this. This looks like it's a really, proper, all bells and whistles release. There have been some reviews already that said it's very nice. Very, very nice indeed. So
we raved about the Netflix version.
Yeah, quite well, exactly. Yeah,
and
I see
the
on there
whole theater experience from Netflix, and imagine what this is going to be like in a physical release. I mean,
yes. Yeah,
did we even speculate? I don't even think. Did we even?
No, I don't think
speculate that we'd be getting it. I didn't think so.
Well, no, because there've been so many massive movies that Netflix have been involved in that you would have thought were ripe for release. Your Extractions, your Six Undergrounds, all these sorts of movies. You'd think, well, that's going to be released because they're things by Michael Bay and massive films, and no sign of a physical release. And then along comes something like this, and within a couple of months, here it is. So yeah, very, very cool. So actually, John is saying, do we think it'll come to Kaleidescape? Do you happen to know? Is this has there been any mention?
It hasn't yet. It hasn't yet.
Okay.
And I've actually looked for it, but it hasn't yet. I was hoping to get it. But if it's depends on who it's put out by, and it isn't.
Well,
it's not an American film either, though.
No. Right. And there's nothing on the box art there that hints at it being released or distributed, not released, distributed by a studio.
MPI Media Group. I have it on the website here on Blu-ray.com is saying MPI Media Group. So I don't know if they have any kind of a deal with Kaleidescape or not. But yeah, I don't know. I'm
really looking forward to this. This is a day one buy for me. I can't wait. As much as it's a harrowing movie and it's not an easy watch.
No,
I've got people that haven't seen it, and this is the way to see it, including my boss actually. Who was talking about movies the other day. Every now and then he sidles up to me at the firm and says, "Now, Steve, I've just seen this film," and so he's got no idea about this podcast, but he knows I like films. And so I say to him, I said about this film, and he is going to absolutely love this movie. And it looks like it's coming with the Blu-ray, so I'll let him borrow the Blu-ray. And he can watch that. I'm really, really looking forward to watching this again. And there are some people who are going to want to come around and watch it in the cinema room. Fingers crossed. And I notice it's Dolby Vision and HDR and HDR10 as well. Don't think it's HDR10 plus, is it, by the looks of it?
No, you usually get Vision and you either get Vision or plus. I don't.
You wouldn't get both normally.
I don't think you get both. Yeah, I don't remember seeing that. So, but yeah. Looking forward to that. That's on Tuesday. Also, we had, and that's Tuesday, March 28th, by the way. I haven't said that yet. This one, do we have this already? Or is this the first?
I don't think so.
It's a first. You've had it on Kaleidescape for a while, haven't you, Deej?
I think so.
I remember you talking about it a while back.
They're starting
quite
to
like
blend,
this
Steve.
I'm looking forward to this. I quite liked this film when I saw it donkeys years ago, and I've got the Blu-ray. I do wonder if the effects are going to suffer a bit. The bending of the bullets didn't look brilliant on Blu-ray. I dread to think how it's going to look with a universal shout. Is it Scream or Shout Factory? 4K release.
Shout.
Yeah,
it's a Shout Factory from and it's.
So I don't know. I'm not sure how it's going to look. I'm not 100% sure how well it's going to age either, because it is ludicrous. This is a proto Bloodshot. I think this is a proto thing with that, where you've got the kind of it's a sort of superhero film, but not really a superhero film, because you know, back when this was made, superhero films weren't really a kind of thing yet.
Yeah.
So you could do superhero stuff, but you couldn't be called a superhero. And so I think because they all had to have spandex and look a bit silly,
right?
So yeah, I'll be curious to give it a go, but with some trepidation.
Well, yeah. You mean like maybe it didn't age well?
Yeah.
Compared to what we have today,
I mean, it might be great, but
I really enjoyed it. I think we watched this as a family on Blu-ray years ago. James McAvoy, pretty young. I feel like he was a lot younger in this one, but even still, it was only 2008. So But yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think I might pick it up. It's one of those I'll pick up after a couple of weeks when it's a bit cheaper. I'll John this stuff.
Yeah, when that's $10, I'll pick it up.
Yeah, which it will be. I mean, it'll drop like a stone quite quickly.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. We have. I got these out of order here. But up next, Freeway 2 from 1999. Anybody heard of this one?
Nope. I've never heard of Freeway 1, I don't think.
Or are we sure it's not Freeway 11? It's just
yeah.
I know.
Could be.
It could be. It could be Freeway Equals.
Right.
Sideways.
Freeway Pause.
Yeah. Pause. There you go. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I've never heard of it. It looks like a movie from the sort of the 1970s.
Well, and look
it came out in 99. Yeah.
And look at the graphic. The best graphic I could find from it. It's like somebody. It was like in there.
Yeah, someone's holding it, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like it was awful. I was like, all right, no, it can't be too popular. So we will move on from that. Next we have from 2007, Steve, Dead Silence.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
What? That's the horror movie.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But it's also, again, it's this killer doll thing. I don't get that either. It's the Chucky stuff. I've never seen a lot of the Child's Play films because I don't find them very scary or very interesting, to be honest. So it looks like a killer doll from that. It's not my thing. I mean, I see that it's from the writer and director and producers of Saw. So that, I mean, I like the Saw movies, even though that's got a puppet in it, Billy the Puppet. But yeah, I might have to look and see if this is on on Netflix or something. Well, quite. There's so much good stuff out there.
Stressing over this.
Yeah, well, I just, as the resident sort of horror person, it's not good to then go.
You can feel like he feels. You can feel it in him that his like horror cred is going out the window.
Yeah,
because he's just waiting and like he's trying to talk and read the comments and be like, "How if you call yourself a horror fan and you haven't seen Dead Silence?"
Yeah,
it's okay, Steve. We still love you.
Just please don't make me watch it.
I think you're actually afraid of child dolls. It's not that they don't make you afraid. You're too afraid.
Afraid that I'll get too bored.
Yeah. Well,
I just don't find it. I mean, it's similar to anything where you've got sort of scary children. I don't find them frightening. I find it weird.
Do you
like
actually
children
get scared
No.
in horror movies?
No.
So
I
then
just
what's
find
the difference?
Well, because I find it a bit boring and not engaging. You can be engaged with a horror film and not be scared.
Right.
I mean, I can count on one hand the number of films that I would genuinely say scared me, whatever that necessarily means. Very rare, very, very rare. But you can be entertained, enthralled, and unsettled by things like that.
Yeah.
And that's just as effective and just as interesting. But I don't find again, demonic possession, killer dolls. I don't find them very interesting. I don't. It doesn't really engage with me. So that's just my thing. Give me Stalk and Slash any day of the week. The Masked Killer, great. The elevated horror stuff, all good. But yeah, this. Yeah. But if someone sees it, if someone's listening and has seen it, or viewing or watching and has seen it, and if it's good, let me know, because then I'll give it a
absolutely.
go. But yeah, not for me at the moment though.
Yep. All right. And let's see, we have Steve, another one for you. Have you seen this one? From 1988.
This, looking at the picture, this is the Killer Baboon movie. I think this is, and I have seen this, but way back when it came out, and I couldn't tell you much about it. But yes, I think I have. If it's the one I'm thinking of, and looking at that picture, I think it is. Then yes, I have, but not for a long time, and I wouldn't buy it again. It's one of the sort of very, very low budget kind of, animal horror movies of the 80s. So, but yeah, again, it's cool to see them coming out though, in 4K of all things. You'd have thought they'd be struggling for a Blu-ray release, let alone a 4K one. So, great.
Yeah, this one's from Vinegar Syndrome.
Oh, okay.
There
we go.
Yep. So
no, fair play.
All right. And next up, here we go. Let's cleanse ourselves of these horrors. And Disney's 100th, we have Cinderella. So coming in 4K for the first time. Pretty sure it's in 4K already on Disney Plus, no?
I think so.
Oh, yeah, I can't say I've seen it. not recently anyway.
I've seen it since I was a kid.
Yeah. I haven't seen that since I was a kid. I did see it as a kid, but I think I saw it in the theater.
We did. In one of those Saturday matinees.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't around in the 30s when it came out.
Well, it's from 1950.
50, okay.
So we were only 20 years
Negative
away from
20.
being born.
Yeah.
20 years away. So, all right. Let's see. Next from, here we go.
I've already got this.
You do?
Yes, I've had this for about a month or so. Yep. Haven't seen any of it yet.
No. Oh, okay.
No. It's one of those BBC docu-series where it's out in 4K, it's in Atmos. You've got to buy it. You simply have to. You can't not buy it. But unfortunately, because I tell me what you think about this, guys. Actually, it's interesting you mentioned this. The jungle ones, the Planet Earth ones, where they go all over the world, or even the deep blue ones, you get them, or Blue Planet, sorry, where they go underwater in that stuff. I always think with the ice ones, I find them a bit less interesting, because white is white, and it's like, and I struggle to see kind of where the home cinema interest comes with that. So this, but I bought it anyway because it is. They always look and sound great. But I'm just struggling to sort of get up the interest in seeing it, even though I bought it. But what do you guys think about that? Do you sort of, you as interested in the kind of the ice and frozen stuff as you are the kind of globe-trotting Planet Earth, Blue Planet stuff, or
not as much? I have Blue Planet. That's what I was trying to think. I just bought a double pack. It had Blue Planet 2 and I can't remember. There was something else in it. But I haven't watched either one of them yet. But yeah, I love these things. But yeah, I guess you're right. I'm probably not as into the Frozen Planet.
Yeah, I said I still bought it. It still didn't stop me getting it, but it's just it's one of those where I've put it in its sleeve, stuck it on the shelf, and kind of forgotten about it. And I know in months and months from now, I'll be looking through my app with it's got them on and think, I haven't seen that, and then I'll put it in. But yeah, it's just one of those I've picked up and then just stuck on the shelf.
Planet Earth 2. So I got Blue Planet 2 and Planet Earth 2.
And they're both great. I've got them. They're both great. And there's Green Planet as well they've done. Yeah, they've done Green Planet as well, which is really nice. They're always great. And they're filmed, by the way, by a unit that's in Bristol. So it's literally 10 minutes from where I live.
Oh, wow.
The BBC natural history unit is in Bristol. That's where they're based. So so there's a local connection to it as well. But yeah, I'm sure it's great. It's just not as inherently great home cinema traditionally than it is when it's globetrotting, where you get the deserts and you get the jungles and you get the underwater and you get the this lovely mix of stuff, which is home cinema heaven for us.
Right. Visually, yes.
Yeah, well, and audibly they're in Atmos.
Yeah.
So you get that as well, and you get the lovely, always storm effects, all this stuff that goes around the room.
Right.
It's not quite demo worthy audio, although it's demo worthy video.
Yeah. Well, that's
And this by definition is a bit limited. It's all just white. And I'm thinking, well, and so I again bought it, but I haven't seen it.
well,
Not a
there
single
can be
minute of
some
it.
detail in your brights too.
Yeah,
Just like
yeah,
we
they
look for
can, they
shadow
can.
detail and stuff. And when I buy like same as you, Steve, and I'll buy these and then they sit on the shelf, but I bought it for the home theater part.
Yeah.
And I actually do like the snow, the white, the all of that. That actually appeals to me as much, if not more, than some of the other stuff, because I love those. I've always loved that environment, like in Shooter, the end Shooter in the white snow in the mountains. And I love that scene. I love the white camo and all that stuff. But yeah, I usually end up getting these and then they just sit on the shelf until I have some time to just, because
they're like 6-8 hours. So
yeah. And it's not thoroughly engaging. There's no story. It's just like take in the sights, sounds, and scenes and just sit there and just be like, wow, and it's like, I don't know. It's just something that I love doing it. I just don't get the opportunity to do it because I'm too busy watching something with like a story and action or something,
Well, the other problem is you can't watch it after a long day because David Attenborough's voice is so relaxing. Yeah. It the number of people I know who are like, I can't watch it because he's lovely and I'll just send me to sleep in 2 minutes.
Right.
So that's your other thing. You've got to watch it when you're wide awake, in the mood, and couldn't think. Otherwise, you'll never see the end.
Right. Well, that's like the joke. I think it was Todd found my weakness, the theater in that podcast. He's like, "Oh, we found your weakness. Yeah, dark room with comfortable seats. Yeah, I'll fall asleep." Like, if that's a weakness. All right. This next one you may have a little trouble falling asleep too. I don't know. Maybe you've seen this, Steve, from 1986. Rawhead Rex.
Nope, that's a new one completely. Yeah, Clive Barker.
Yeah.
Okay. Never heard of it. Yeah, it looks like a sort of some sort of metal band from the 80s.
Right.
Yeah. The font. Yeah, definitely. I'm like Rawhead Rex. I don't know.
Yeah, that's Kino Lorber reaching the bottom of the barrel. Maybe.
Yeah, it is. Yep, it's them. You are correct, sir.
Only because I can see it on the graphic on the spine.
Oh, did it say it? Yeah,
it says KL. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And maybe not a fan, Steve. 2020 from 2023. The crash was only the beginning.
Yeah, geez Louise. I want you guys to see it so that I can see what you think of it, because then it'll tell me whether I need to rewatch it or not.
All right, let's let everybody know. We're talking about Plane.
Yes, sorry.
There's no other word. That's the title.
Yep.
Plane.
Plane by name.
Plane, not PLAIN.
Which it should be.
Which it should be.
I want you to see it because I know you're going to love it, because you will, because it's you. Yeah. John will watch it with a much more critical eye.
Right.
And so, but I'm curious to see what you both make of it, but don't buy it.
Yeah, I was going to say, this will be a Netflix for me, probably.
Yeah, because it is short as well. It's not a long film. It's 90 minutes. And as I said, very racist and just not clever at all. Again, I want to see what you guys make of it, but I'm not going to buy this until I get your guys' opinion, see whether I need to revisit it, but I don't think I will. It'll be a decent home cinema experience, I suspect.
Right.
But, that's about it. And a shame.
That's about it. That's what the whole podcast is about.
Yeah, well, but we can have both.
All it is.
We can have both. We've just been talking about All Quiet on the Western Front and how good a film it is, and it's a good home cinema experience. Whereas
Speaking
this is just
of Transformers,
yeah, Paul's in the chat room. Don't upset him.
I can't upset Paul. Paul's a great guy. All right. All right. Oh boy, there go the dogs.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have DC animated movie Batman Doom. That game in Gotham. Is that the name of it?
that came
It
into
came in
Gotham.
Gotham.
That
Doom
came
that
to
came
Gotham. The Doom
Yeah.
that came to Gotham.
The
Yeah.
Doom that came to Gotham.
Right. This is in your
See,
wheelhouse, guys.
Well,
If the
I
rest
quite
are in
like
my
these
wheelhouse-
movies, but I don't
Yeah.
buy them. Like these for
Okay.
me are always just HBO Max watches.
Right.
Like I don't feel like the home theater experience on these is worth purchasing 4K discs. You know, I mean,
Well-
there's no Atmos. They're animated movies.
I will say this. I used to be in the camp of like, well, who really cares about like 4K, animated movies?
Well,
Like
it does make a difference.
it does. It does. And that's why I said I used to be in that camp. And then I've never been disappointed by a 4K animated feature, especially
Right.
from DC. They have some really good ones.
Mm.
Talking about the picture quality,
Right.
right? And, the sound is good too, but I'm saying usually you would think like it's animated. How much more detail can we get out of the drawing or
Right.
the art? But there is. It's the vibrancy is up a notch. Everything, the saturation's up a notch. It's nicer. So, but I agree with you, John. It's like
Yeah.
there's so many of them. It'd be
Yeah,
hard
like
to
say,
keep up with
I
these.
really enjoy most of these movies. Like I do watch almost all of them, but I don't buy them. So
Yeah.
I've got not the Killing Joke, Batman
I do have Killing Joke
Killing Joke. I haven't bought
because
that
it was
one.
super cheap on
Oh.
4K, so I bought it for
And then
like
I've got the
$6.
Batman. What's what's the seminal Batman story? It came in 2 parts on the
Long
Blu-ray.
Halloween.
The Long
or-
Halloween.
No,
yeah.
what's the one
Or
the
Hush.
one that Kevin Smith always talks about? I've got Hush as well. But the
Hush.
Batman. What was the Batman?
Dark
Not
Knight.
Batman.
Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dark Knight 1 and
Returns.
2. Yep, there
Yeah.
you go. There it is. And I've got those as well. They're very nice,
They
albeit
are,
on Blu-ray, not 4K. And I've got I've got Gotham by Gaslight, which I rather liked as well, and
Yeah.
Yep.
Ninja Batman. I thought Ninja Batman was great.
Yep.
I like that a
Just-
lot too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
but
completely off
Yeah.
the wall, but so much fun.
Yeah.
And I've watched that a couple of times. It's the only one I think I watched a couple of times, and the Dark Knight Returns as well. But yes, I normally though, other than those, I don't buy any of the others. It's only the sort of the Batman ones, and this one looks a bit unusual and not really my not enough to get the juices flowing. I don't think.
But that's the thing
yeah.
is you never know till you see it and you're
Yeah,
like, "Ooh, that was
that's
really
true.
good."
Mhm. Yeah, quite. But this one's come with no fanfare. This is not
Yeah.
adapting a really well-known.
no, it's not. I
Right.
run the trailer for this in the store right now, and it does look decent. But again, yeah, I'll happily wait until it's on HBO Max.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Same here. Just go to my DT section of HBO Max and click through it. Yep. All right. And second to last, we have a lot. We have.
I've got this already.
Do you?
I had this for ages. Yeah. They
G.I.
released a
Joe
2-pack here.
Retaliation.
Yeah, they
Yep.
did G.I. Joe and then the Rise of Cobra, and then they did this one in a 2-pack over here in 4K. So yeah, what do you guys think of this?
I don't know
I
that
have-
I've even seen that one.
Oh,
to
I
be
have
honest
fun with
you.
them.
Yeah, I was gonna
I
say,
like a lot of the GI Joe movies, but I don't know if I've seen this one.
Well, there's
It's
only
all right.
two.
Yeah.
No, there's a couple
Well,
of
you've got
them,
the
isn't there?
you've
Yeah,
got
two.
Snake Eyes
Cobra,
and
Snake Eyes.
as well. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
and
yeah.
Snake Eyes, which
we
I
talked
still
about
haven't
a while
seen
ago.
yet.
It's all right. It's okay. It's not not brilliant, but it's all right. This is similar. I think I probably prefer this a little bit to Rise of Cobra, because Rise of Cobra is just it's just toys moving around on the screen. It seems to me, quite literally. Whereas this one, at least they tried to do something a little bit different, and they tried to give. I mean, obviously there was all kinds of behind the scenes issues with this, which is why, spoiler alert, Channing Tatum isn't in it very much. So there were all kinds of issues in the background of this, but it's all right. It's quite fun, and obviously Bruce Willis is a welcome addition to any movie generally. And,
He was in this
and-
one and not the first one, right?
No, yeah, quite. Yeah, he's
And I have seen
he
it,
is
and
he's the original GI Joe in this, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
the GI.
I have
original.
definitely seen it then.
Oh, okay, yes, and it's okay. It's not too bad. The bike thing's quite cool, and there are some good action scenes.
Right.
And from what I remember, though, don't get your hopes up too much with the transfer, and the audio is not bad. It's only DTS HD, but assuming they've not remastered this, I don't think they have. So this is one of the older Paramount back cat discs that were okay, but not brilliant. We're going to talk some really good Paramount 4K discs in a bit. So this one is one of the older ones. It's quite flat. There's a little bit of punch or extra punch with the HDR and the wider color gamut, but not by much. And then the audio would only be up next. It's DTS HD 5.1, and there's a bit of heft.
7.
Nothing. Oh, 7.1 is it?
Yep.
Okay.
This one's Dolby TrueHD 7.1.
Okay.
It has Dolby Vision. HDR10.
Okay, so they have done it again. Yeah,
and
so
it is
might be better.
upscaled. It's an upscaled 4K, so it's not a true 4K.
Yeah, no, the other one wasn't either. But if it's in Dolby Vision, that's had an additional pass done on it, which the other one did not have that I've got. But yeah, it's okay. I mean, it'd be worth picking up. But again, don't get paying full price for it. This is one to pick up, down the line for sure.
Pretty sure I already own it.
So how many times?
Only
12.
If it's only once, then you still need to buy it.
Yeah, I know. It's like I'm falling behind. All right. And last of the 4K releases for March 28th, Tuesday, March 28th, we have a Lighthouse.
That's the English cover there. Are you only just getting this?
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's been out here for ages. I haven't seen it yet. It's one of the few Robert Eggers films that I haven't seen it. We know another film, I think, by Robert Eggers, Deej and John.
What's that?
He did The Northman, didn't he?
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
I think he did.
I actually want to see that. When did this come out?
A couple of years ago?
Was it a couple of years? Because I remember hearing about it. And like you said, this was the only cover I could, or the best looking cover I could find. Usually I just go to Blu-ray.com and that's where I get all my information for this stuff. But the graphic that they have is just like, it's just like they threw something together. It wasn't this one. So I just searched and I found this, this cover, but I don't know what ours is going to look like. And Blu-ray.com doesn't know yet either.
It's very, very odd. It's very off the wall. There are, rumor has it, talking seagulls. It's properly weird.
Really?
This one is complete. Yeah. So some of the bits of The Northman that perhaps you're not a big fan of, John, this is a whole film of it. It's very, very odd. It's a two men literally in this lighthouse going crazy. And it's you sort of go, as I understand it, I haven't seen it. I don't even own it yet, but bizarrely. It's been out here for ages. And I haven't even bought the Blu-ray because I'm thinking, it's just too weird. And I normally really like Robert Eggers stuff, but I was just thinking I haven't quite brought myself to see it.
This is a native 4K Dolby Vision.
We haven't got the 4K here.
5.1,
Yeah, we've only got the Blu-ray here, which of course that's the graphic for. But I'll be curious to see what people make of it. But I don't know. It's a strange one.
Yeah,
this is going to be one to be in the mood to see. Dark and stormy night, wide awake. Just chuck it on and see.
Yeah, sounds good. All righty, that's it for what's that? 14 releases coming on Tuesday.
A bunch,
Quite a few.
Yeah.
And then on the 31st, well, then there's a couple of sporadics in the rest of the week. We have City of the Living Dead coming on March 29th, which is the next day. And then March 31st, we have Dr. Caligari from 1989. Never heard of it. I didn't grab the graphics because those aren't on Tuesday. So, but yeah, so we've got that. All right, let's go. We are ready. Are you ready to get to HT experiences? It's that time, and we have a few to get to. We've got a lot of fun coming up, so let's get to it. All right. Well, I was going to say who wants to go first, but I have these in order, so let's open up with John's first.
My first one?
Yeah.
All right. So this was a theatrical experience, not at home. Went to go see Shazam, Fury of the Gods. I quite enjoyed this movie. I know, DJ, you saw it as well. We talked about it a bit yesterday. There is a lot of vitriol online surrounding this movie.
That's being kind.
And I don't really understand it. Like I was saying with DJ yesterday, like this is Shazam 2, right? Like if you saw Shazam 1 and you enjoyed it, there is nothing about this movie that you will not enjoy. It is very much cut from the same cloth as the first one. And if you did not enjoy the first movie. I don't know why you're here watching this movie. It's just more of the same. If you like Shazam, you'll like this movie. It's like I said, it's very much cut from the same cloth. I actually like this one a little more than the first one.
Me too.
It's goofy. Like I said, this movie is exactly what it advertises itself to be. At its heart, it's a kid's movie.
Yeah.
There's not floating any super high themes or plot points that you have to try to decipher. This is very much on the nose, but I had a great time with it, and I think this will be fantastic at home. It's super colorful. The HDR should be fantastic when we get this in 4K. It should have all the requisite booms and crashes and explosions that you would expect from like Black Adam or Shazam. I think it'll be a great release. But I guess ultimately, if you like the first one, go see this. You'll have a great time. You should really enjoy it. If you didn't like the first one, pass on it because you won't like this one either. Like I said, it's very much the same. So,
yep. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one as well. Funny thing for me, I forgot this was coming out. Completely whiffed on this. And I was sitting at the restaurant on Friday night and I'm watching the TV and, March Madness is on and a commercial comes on and it's like, oh, Shazam. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see that. And then it's like in theaters now. I was like, what? I was like,
there's a lot coming out around now too, because I've got my tickets already for this week for John Wick, and then next week for Dungeons and Dragons. Like I'm going to be in the movie. I haven't been to the movies this much since like pre-pandemic.
Yeah,
because I've been 3 times this month already, and I'm going 2 more times in the next 2 weeks.
I know.
So,
and I'm not going to be able to get to. I'm not going to be able to get to John Wick. I don't know if I'll get to it by the time we record next week. Because like you said, they're coming really quick now, and it's like Dungeons and Dragons, and I was lucky enough. I just grabbed the tickets for Monday for Shazam, and I was like, I had no idea, completely off my radar, everything, and it was a lot of fun. And like John and I said yesterday, this is going to be, I think, a fun home theater experience. There's some dark scenes that are really going to show off the HDR. There's a lot of nice brights here. It's like I'm thinking of some of the dark scenes from Black Adam, but then add in the brightness of Shazam, right? And it's, but the goofiness is like you were saying, like Zachary Levi acting like a teenager. It's like you forget that's what he is inside when you're watching these scenes, but then you're like, when you get back into that mindset, it's actually pretty funny, and he does a really good job. The one line in there is like, "What's with our kids and the older women?"
Yeah,
it was pretty funny. It's pretty funny. So
there's a couple of little, they hide a couple of things from the trailer. So there's a couple of things that you will be surprised when you find out. And then, of course, the big cameo was spoiled by DC themselves.
Really?
In the commercials, the very last trailer spoiled the big cameo. But if you don't know what it is, we won't say because it's super fun.
Yeah.
Again, this is one of those things where you don't know if it's going anywhere now because of all the changes at DC. Although there are 2 post-credit scenes that lead you to believe that at least Shazam has a future in the new DC EU, based on the first post, like the mid-credit scene. So, which I think was added post James Gunn, and post movie, post completion of the movie. So we may see this character again, even if there isn't another Shazam movie on the horizon.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed it, but looking forward to the home theater release. And it's getting bashed right now. And as I said to John yesterday, I'm quietly hoping that it continues to get bashed and maybe comes to home theater sooner.
Sorry. Well, I think that's Not much doubt about that. 'Cause like I
Yeah.
said, it seems to really be getting a bum rap.
Yeah.
So
So, all right. Steve, why don't you tell us about your screener,
Oh,
which is now
yeah.
playing in theaters?
Oh, yes. So this is Cocaine Bear. Now, if that's
Not
not a
wait, yeah.
title, I mean, I was very, very wary of this because I haven't seen it in theaters. I saw it on a screener. So I watched it at home in the cinema room. And I was wondering if this was going to be like Snakes on a Plane. It's all title, no substance. It's just going to be because Snakes on a Plane is not a great film and has aged awfully even at the time. I think it aged awfully within about a week. So I was wary of this, but I sat down on an evening ready for this, and boy, oh boy, did I enjoy this. This is an absolute riot. And if you are into creature features with humor and gore and that kind of stuff, then you are in great hands with this. It's very, very funny when it needs to be. It's gory when it should be, and it's an absolute hoot. So I recommend this all day long. It's directed by Elizabeth Banks, and the movie that it most reminded me of in terms of its humor and gore was Slither. As I think, John, you and I were texting, weren't we?
Right.
And again, we mentioned it there. It's very similar to that in terms of you've got the very, very funny and then very gory within a couple of seconds of one another. I had a great time with this, and the screener was good enough to know that this will be a very nice home theater experience because you've got the lush greens of the sort of forest with the mud and the dirt and everything else, and it was shot digitally, so it's very, very sharp. Looks polished within an inch of its life. And that plus all the kind of the bear growls and all the rest of it, which even in stereo was decent. I think this will be it'll be an absolute hoot at home. So highly, highly recommend this. It was very funny indeed. And at the end of it, you're just like, oh, I could watch that again now and enjoy it just as much. So yeah, very recommended. I wish I'd seen it at the cinema because it would have been nice to have seen it earlier. If you know what I mean. Right. I wish I hadn't stayed away from it. And I know, John, you and I had a discussion about the cost of it to rent it, which seems exorbitant.
Yeah, because like DJ was saying, it's still in the theater, so it's a premium rental. It's $20. I'm okay spending that to go to the theater to see it, but if I'm going to pay $20 for a rental, I'll just buy the disc. I'd rather own it for that price.
For another $10, even at top price, you'd own it, wouldn't you? You then can watch it as much as you want, and in a better version than the theaters.
And I would absolutely see it in the theater, but my wife is not really on board with this one, so I can't drag her to it, and I don't go alone to the theater, so
no. Well, this will be when you get it home. This will be a couple of beers, or you guys watch it over dinner, don't you? But a couple of beers, and just if you're in the right mood for this, you will have a blast. And in fact, DJ, this might even be for you as well. And I know this is not normally your thing.
Could I tell you my hesitation?
What could it possibly be?
Not that a horror or anything like that.
No.
I feel awful for the bear.
Oh, no. There are no animals in this film.
No, but I even feel awful for didn't this come from a true story? It actually happened.
Very, very loosely.
Yeah, I was
no.
Say,
I know that. I know this isn't a depiction of that story, but the bear died in real life. They had to kill it.
But no. The bear died. Didn't kill it. The bear died. They didn't kill it. The bear died in real life.
Oh, I thought they had to kill it.
No. He ate just all this stuff, and it just killed him. I mean, they didn't kill it. The thing died. There was this. I mean, literally, the real story is they chuck some cocaine out of a plane. Bear finds it. Bear eats it. It kills bear. That's it. That's the story done. Yogi finished.
Right.
Whereas, and no picnic baskets.
Boo Boo.
Yeah, well, quite. Yeah, he's still
no party for Boo Boo.
Yeah. He wasn't smarter than your average bear, I guess.
He was higher than your average bear.
You're right.
But whereas this one, in this stage, unless you're telling me you feel sorry for noughts and ones, then there is no worry about. There's no real animal in this. In fact, funny enough, the CG on this is actually very good and pretty decent. Bearing in mind the budget. And of course, again, I preface this with this was only 1080p, so I haven't seen it in 4K, and it might not look quite as convincing in 4K. Right. But you know, you will not when you finish this feel sorry for the bear. You might feel sorry for the poor suckers that walk into the bear's path. Those you might feel sorry for, although they're all idiots in their own sweet way.
Right.
All right. So you might feel sorry for the victims, but you won't feel sorry for the bear. The bear has a great time.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
So yeah, no. Honestly, it's such a fun film. I had a great time with it, and
Right.
you know, enough for me having finished it to be just.
It is available on Kaleidescape right now.
How much is it on Kaleidescape? Is it to buy or rent?
It's to buy, but I'm pretty sure it's
45. Not another $45 job.
It's no, it come down. It was 39, but now it's down to 29. So it's getting closer.
Quite a lot, isn't it?
Oh, I know. But, I think at one time when it first got released, I want to say it was 39, maybe not, but it's $29.99 right now.
Yeah,
in
it's
Atmos,
a 90-minute
4K
movie.
HDR.
Yeah, I'll wait for the 4K release. It is coming. They've announced it, and it's out, you know, in a couple of months. Right. But this will be great. And again, I can't wait to see what John makes of this.
Yeah,
it's bonkers in the best way.
Yeah. All right. Next up, let's just talk about I've got this for me for next. Let's talk about have you guys seen what are we up to? Episode 3 now? 4. Mandalorian, season 3.
Is it 3?
4 will be tomorrow, won't it?
Oh, okay.
4 is tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah, I've only seen halfway through episode 3.
What happened?
It was episode 3. That's what happened.
Yeah. It was a bit.
Wasn't very interesting.
It was slower. That's why I wanted to put it in here. It's like I kind of agree with you on that. I'm not saying I don't like that. But did it feel like they were trying to do, not that they were copying, because obviously they filmed this a long time ago, but it felt like a couple of the episodes from The Last of Us where they went on a tangent somewhere else.
I feel like this is setting up Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Like Boba Fett had 2 episodes that set up this season of The Mandalorian. I feel like this is setting up Ahsoka because we know that Ahsoka is going to be looking for Grand Admiral Thrawn in her show. And if they stay true to the expanded universe with Thrawn, he was very much into the cloning.
Right.
You know, and so I don't know if they'll do that because they have famously disavowed the expanded universe, even though they keep bringing characters from it into this. But I feel like this is setting up something that probably won't pay off in this show, but could be wrong.
Yeah. I got the impression it was just moving pieces on a board. You know, they're moving people into position for later stuff. That's what I got from this, only having seen half of it. But it felt like that to me. They're just this is almost a placeholder. We're trying to get everybody where we need them to be for whatever either's coming in this series or another.
Right.
But yeah, it's a strange series so far. This one, isn't it? It's a little bit all over the place. You know, one episode's this and next episode's that, and there's not much of a through line to the plot of this.
Right.
Not far
yet. Not yet. But usually with them, what ends up happening is at the end, you're like, oh, I see the thread here. You know, and you'd be like, oh, that's what that meant. You know. Have you heard, John, have you heard of the podcast Smartless? Have you listened to that one?
No.
It's with, let me see the names on here. Jason Bateman, Sean Hayes, and Will Arnett.
Okay.
They've been doing it for a long time. They actually, I think they took it on the road as well, but they've been around for a while. It's really good. It's basically like us three, only they talk about the industry and everything like that. And they're way more popular than us three. But the one that came out on Monday, it was with Jon Favreau.
Okay.
And it was really good. It's like just listening to Favreau talk, and they talk about his career and how he started and basically how he got to be where he is now. And even they gush all over it. Like, you know, like he actually went to school for something like banking. And then was like, I don't really want to do this. And he was driving across country, ended up in Chicago, ends up at Second City. And there's like, boom, you know, you can listen to the podcast, but you're like, Now, how do you make that jump from like that to you're reinventing the industry with some of the technology that he's been a part of? And they were likening him to George Lucas in that way. And he has kind of taken that mantle and done that. And it started with even before Star Wars, it started because he directed Lion King.
Right.
And started with that, and they liked what, but anyways, but then they get into the volume and stuff, and now there's a different name for it. I forget what it is now. It's called something else.
Right.
But just all of everything they're doing. They did ask him questions about the Mandalorian and some story, and he's like, well, I can't answer that. So,
right.
But yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
check
I don't
that
know.
out.
This has felt very much just like a series of side quests. You know what I mean?
So
in our
far.
video game, and I don't.
Yeah.
And things that haven't gone anywhere. Like episode 1, we spent all this time with IG-11, right? Like it was so crucial that he got IG-11 working, and then he flies
didn't work.
he flies to Tatooine. They tell him he can't get the part. Take this other droid instead. And then all of a sudden, now we don't care at all about IG-11 anymore. We've completely moved on. And it's just like, it's like a video game. It's like, go here, do this thing. Talk to this person. Go here, do this thing. So, yeah, it's been really disjointed this season so far. So
Yeah.
You've got a question in the chat too, John, from Rockstar.
have
Have you seen that, Deej? We got that there. There we go.
Darth Bane trilogy, rated R, maybe PG-13, $1 billion profit if casted right and true to the books. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Could you get $1 billion film out of an R-rated movie?
It'd be tough. I mean, Deadpool came close, right? What did they do? 700 million?
Yeah.
Or so.
Yeah. It's
tough
because
it's tough. Definitely PG-13. I think
Mm.
we could get there. I don't know if you could get there with R rating because Star Wars is so much about taking the kids, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So, but PG-13 maybe. But yeah, there is so much expanded universe in Star Wars that they should be tapping into that they're just not even touching.
I always get into that debate, and I don't understand it. Like, does it have to be rated R?
What doesn't?
Can you
No,
do a
like I said,
PG-13
I think it
and
could
then
be
do an
PG-13.
uncut version on disc, which brings up the value of the disc? But can you do? I mean, I hear people all the time like, "Oh,
but I mean, I don't know. Like,
does it R? Why?"
Well, but the thing is, could Deadpool be PG-13? You know what I mean? Like, do you get the same movie if that's not rated R? So, I think certain movies do have to be rated R. I'm not sure if
they do.
I'm not sure if this trilogy would have to be rated R.
That's
I
what
mean,
I
it's
mean.
definitely
That's what
going
I
to
mean.
be, dark and it's going to be violent,
Right. But I think that's what I meant. Is like,
but it's not going to be.
the violence.
It's not really
You
going to
don't
be
need to
language,
show it.
right? It's not going to have the language, and it's not going to have, like the sexual aspects of things that traditionally are rated R.
Right.
But
I mean, but even Bane in the comics or anywhere he's shown up has never been in a rated R light.
Right.
It's so like doing a rated R movie. I could see if they did a director's cut or an uncut version and you got it on disc and we're like, oh, it's just more violent. Right. That would be cool, but you don't need to do it to sell the movie. And it is counterintuitive to making money. Like a lot of people think like, I won't see it if it's not a rated R. Well, yeah, but actually more people will see it if it's not rated R. Right. So, so it's sometimes that's, what we want isn't always what makes money. Right.
Well,
and then following up with Brock's last comment, yes, exactly. Not with Kathleen
Kennedy.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna get an answer to that question soon with Blade. Of course, we had 2 of the 3 very good. At least I know you like the third one, Deej, as well, but 2 certainly very good. Third one less so. And
it was less so, but I thought it was hysterical. So,
well, you've got another link to Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool, haven't you? So,
there you go.
Whereas the Marvel one is unlikely to be R. I mean, Deadpool's going to be the Deadpool versus Wolverine or whatever. It's going to be R because it's kind of built in. Right. But I don't think that means Blade will be. So we're going to see a PG Blade and then see whether that's going to float our boat the way that the others did. But to me, that's a series that needs to be R rated. I can't imagine bringing that into a PG friendly world and then being anything near as good. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yep. All right. Next up, we have John. Why don't we go with your, what is that, number 2 here?
Number 2? Yeah, so Carnival Row episodes 9 and 10. I know you've talked about this almost every week. This was the series finale. Of course, on Amazon Prime.
I haven't seen the ending yet. I haven't seen 9.
Well, I'm not going to spoil
10,
anything.
sorry, I said
Honestly,
9.
the only reason why I put this on here, because you have talked about it every week.
Yeah.
But I put this on here because this is the show that I felt like showed off the black levels of, like, the enhanced black levels of this projector. Like, this was gorgeous. You know, so deep, so inky black in so many areas of this show.
John, let me interrupt you for a second. That it's not just that it's inky black, it's the way it gets there. And like this graphic that we have here on YouTube, I think is a good example in that. See how it just fades so nice. But then like when you get into some, like in the middle of it, just below the C and the A, that on your screen would just go to such a deep black there. Right. But like the fading that they do throughout this show, it just looks so good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree. But you know, it's super colorful where it needs to be, because there's, you know, they don't spend all their time on the row, right? It's like Lord of the Rings, right? Like we spend all this time in the mines and it's super dark, and then we flip over to the Shire. You know, this is similar, right? Because there's scenery in areas where it's very bright and very vibrant and looks great. But like when you're on the row, it's dark, it's dank, it looks like Gotham City. You know, it's really bad. And you know, like I said, I think I watched the first 2 episodes on my projector, and then I watched 3 weeks worth of this, so 6 episodes on my TV in my bedroom. And then I came back and finished this off on the projector. I really feel like this update was shown off while I was watching this show. It's possible it looked that good before, and maybe I'm just looking for something. But this was really the first thing I watched where it would make a difference. Like, you know, once I got the projector hooked up, it was Wednesday night. It was kind of late. You know, my wife, we just watched like The Good Doctor, and, you know, we just watched crap. And so nothing was going to show off black levels. You know, Thursday night, we get home from SHAZAM. These 2 episodes were there. We sat down and we watched it, and it looked fantastic. And so I think, you know, I think the update did do something for the projector, and it was definitely shown off here. But this show looked great. You know, I won't talk necessarily about the story and the way it wrapped up because you haven't seen it. But I was very satisfied with this. You know, I think it could have gone more than 2 seasons.
Better than the way it ended for me last week.
yeah. It actually had an ending. But like I said, this is a show that, you know, it kind of got cut short because I don't think it did very well for them. The story really could have gone at least another 2 seasons, I think. But, you know, but they did a good job knowing that they knew it was going to end. So it didn't leave any big cliffhangers. They knew it was going to be the last season when they made it. And so they did it appropriately. And yeah, really, really looked great. And it sounded great. I like, for a streamer, this was really good. So.
Yeah, definitely. Like we've said before, it's like Apple TV Plus quality.
Yes.
It's that good. So, yeah.
Which, like I said, not everything on Prime is that.
No.
Some of it is and some of it's not.
Exactly. So couldn't agree more. I can't wait I'm really looking forward to episode 10. So, all right. Next up, here we go. You ready, Steve?
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
Now, tell me if you've seen this one, DJ. This could be the most discussed movie on this podcast next to Midway.
Yeah.
Because boy, oh boy, has this taken a life of its own. So anyone listening to this is Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, and 4K disc. Now, I've imported this from America because it's not out here forever. So, and it's still in the cinemas here, actually. So that, you know, we're going to be waiting a long time to get. Oh, yeah. So finally got it. Now, I saw this on a screener not long after its release. So I saw it last year and I loved it from minute one. I saw it with other people. We watched it one afternoon and just had an absolute blast with this. Lots of Spanish in it, which speaks to me, but also it's a fun character and some very near the knuckle, I think, villains, but a lot of fun. So really enjoyed it when I saw it before. And this week finally got the 4K disc and got to then see it properly in the cinema room in 4K HDR and then with Dolby Atmos. Now, we made a special watch of this on Saturday afternoon, did a proper premiere of this in Cinema George with some other people. And I'm very pleased to report it was just as fun second time round, if not more so. So the movie's fantastic. I think it should have won Best Animated Film. But then I would. I think it's great, and this film needs to be seen by everybody and anybody, even those that aren't such big cat fans, Deej. But it's very good. So the movie's great. So now let's talk the home theater side of it.
Yeah,
because we haven't talked about that enough, and you and Mike Schramm didn't spend enough time on it. So the HDR. Now the video, I think, is very nice indeed. I think that the HDR is good. I think the color saturation, the wider color gamut's put to really good use, and it suits the animation style of this beautifully. And you get the very bright brights and the black blacks, and you get all the colors in between. And the animation, of course, changes. So when you've got your traditional computer animation for most of it, but when there are action sequences, it cuts to a sort of into the Spider-Verse type stylistic choice, which is beautiful. And it really suits this well. And so I think in terms of video and audio, really, I think it's a demo disc. Reference, maybe not, but not far off it. In terms of animation, I think it's pretty close. And I've got a lot of animated films in 4K, and this would be the one I would reach for. I think probably before some of the Pixar movies. I think I'd probably reach for this. Probably Spider-Verse maybe first, and then I think this just afterwards. So it looks great, sounds fantastic as well. There is some decent heavy bass in this from time to time. Again, nothing that I think is going to rearrange your room. Nothing that's going to, it's not overpowering. It's not pummeling, but there is heft to it, and there are some bits in this that nicely kind of have some oomph to them. And if you're watching it as a family film, which, bearing in mind the type of movie it is, you are likely to be doing that. You're not going to want something that's as powerful as Lucy or Halloween Ends if you're watching it with kids, because obviously they're not going to want that. Ears bleeding.
I would say that as a home theater experience, watching this with kids could amplify the terror. I mean, it's you know what I mean? Like if you're watching this in a family room on a regular television with kids, there's a little bit more separation between the child and the feature. Right.
Yeah.
But if you go into a dedicated room or even a setup like a living room experience where the lights are down and it's like the surround sound's on and you really it was scary. There was some, I mean, the villain, I think we talked about that in the past. It was really scary.
Still haven't seen it.
Well,
just
no,
saying.
At the end where
it's in the graphics too. You can see some of the stuff, but I mean, even just like you were saying, like the Atmos, there's nothing there as far as like, it's not like you can say, oh, well, here's a demo scene right here, but it's where it shines is its consistency from beginning to end, picture and sound is what really pulls you in. And there's a scene towards the end that I felt like the cinematography, the way, and it's hard to say that on a CGI movie, on an animated feature, but it's like the scope that they showed and the colors that I think that's where people are getting like, wow. It's like that you're seeing the sky, you're seeing the ground, you're seeing all this stuff. And the colors, like you said, all the colors in between. There's so much going on that you can see, and especially on a bigger screen like we all have, it really does look nice. It's really good. I'm just the one, like we talked about before we got on, and Mike and I talked about. It's like I'm just not like a huge like by the end of the movie, I was just like, okay, that was a good story. I wasn't really like blown away by it, but but I guess a lot of people are.
Yeah, well, it's just such a fun film, and this is a perfect example of a second movie so a sequel that is way better than the first one.
Isn't this the third one?
No, of Puss in Boots separate. There was one spin-off one, and then this one.
Oh, okay.
So and that's now out in 4K over there. It's not out in 4K here, but the first one's pretty by the numbers. It's a by the numbers spin-off. Whereas this one, they just swung for the fences with this, and I think it's it's noticeable. But yeah, I agree. I mean, for those listening, if you are going to watch this with young kids, you're going to have to bear in mind the villain is villainous and is quite scary and fun. But as I said, when we watched it on Saturday afternoon, it was just fantastic. It was a really good theatrical cinematic experience. We did all the popcorn and the drinks and and the matching coasters, obviously, and did all that. And it was a really fun kind of experience. And obviously that's what this is all about. So yeah, it's very, very good and a great disc. So if you've got people that you think are going to like it, or you think you'll like it yourself, buy it. And if you don't, then, if you're not sure, if you've got very young children, you might want to watch it yourself first. Because as I said, the villain is doing more than one thing. It's not just, I'm a bad guy, I'm doing bad things. It symbolizes something much darker. And yeah, so kind of watch out for that. But yeah, it's great.
Yeah, really good. Highly recommend.
That'll be the last Puss in Boots thing.
Yeah.
I doubt we won't talk Puss in Boots for a while.
Yeah, I doubt it. So, all right, we're gonna do a quick jump here. We're gonna go to John. Why don't we do your next here?
Luther.
So number 3, Luther, The Falling Sun. This was on Netflix. It was 4K HDR, Dolby Atmos. Have either of you watched Luther?
I've seen the series. I've seen the BBC series and up until the last one. Which was a bit disappointing. The last series was not good.
You're right. It was not. But I really overall enjoyed that show quite a bit, and was very much looking forward to this movie. I didn't know they were making it. I had no idea it was coming until recently. And the reason why I ask is because if you haven't seen it, doesn't matter. This is completely standalone. You don't have to know anything about the character or that it even existed prior to this movie. It doesn't matter. Did you see this, Steve?
No, I haven't yet. Okay. I've been thinking about it. I was, again, obviously not to get too far off the point, but we really liked 1, 2, and 3, series 1, 2, and 3, and that was on the BBC over here.
Fell off a bit on the last
and then
season.
The last one just shook the faith completely because it just was a bit weird. But I've seen the trailers to this, and I get what you say. It looks to be just a totally different thing. It's almost not the same character,
right?
He's a bit of an action hero in this, and in the series, he gets his ass kicked. Quite routinely for such a big guy. He gets his ass handed to him time and time again, it seems, including by little Alice, who is not, this looked very different.
It's very, very dark. And obviously Idris Elba is great. He's always been great, but this movie was stolen by Andy Serkis. He is an almost Hannibal Lecter level villain in this movie. It is very dark, very disturbing. And yes, it bared little resemblance to most of the show, which was kind of just a routine cop drama. I mean, there was murders and things that had to be solved, but it wasn't really dark on this level. This was a rated R movie and they kind of went with that. But yeah, very dark. I thought it looked great. This was another one where I thought, like I said, maybe the projector was shining a little bit with some of these dark scenes. But the Atmos sounded great. I thought the HDR, I thought everything looked great on this. It was a very high quality Netflix production, and it shows in the home theater experience. But this was left very much open-ended, so it leaves me to wonder if they're now going to do a series of, because I think this is where this would be best, in just a couple of 2-hour movies here and there, and not necessarily a weekly, episodic thing. But the door is definitely open for more of this, more Luther if we want it. And after this, I kind of felt like you after the last episode of the show. I didn't really think I needed to visit Luther again. But when I saw this was coming, I was looking forward to it because like I said, overall, I did like it. And I thought this movie was really good. So
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I'll give it a
I
go.
would,
But
I would give it a shot for sure, Steve.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
you'll
Well, I will
enjoy it.
because it's Oh, that's interesting. And of course, you can't say Luther. You've got to say Luther. You've got to talk like this. It's Luther, isn't it? All right.
Yeah. and like for you, DJ, if you haven't seen a minute of it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's when I heard you say that, I was like, all right. Yeah, I'll get it. Yeah,
definitely jump in because, like I said, it's just a good thriller, and a very dark. Like Andy Serkis is great in this.
Yeah, he is good. Yeah. All right, sounds good. All right, Steve, why don't we go with
number 3? Okay. Oh yeah. So
that
double Jeopardy.
Go.
Double pictures, double Jeopardy. Yes.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So this is the first of 2 Paramount back catch releases that I want to talk about this week. I'm going to be curious to see what you make of this, DJ, and I'm hoping you agree with me, but we'll see how we go. All right. So, because you watched it as well this week, I know from the show notes. So, in terms of the film, I had forgotten that I had seen this film. And it's from the 1999. But there were a number of kind of thrillers like this through the late 80s and early 90s that were kind of high concept thrillers. So you had things like Jagged Edge, and you had Double Jeopardy. You had, Basic Instinct, kind of, although that took it to a more exploitation level. I would say that's a slightly different sort of film.
Yeah, there were a lot of John Grisham type, like the Client, the Pelican
Firm.
Brief.
Yep.
All of them. Yes. It seemed to be like a whole genre to itself.
Yeah, it did.
For like 5 years.
And they were quite high concept thrillers. They were what would you do if? And
Dead Calm.
So
that was way before all this, but yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that's probably one of the first ones on Nicole Kidman and Billy Zane, wasn't it? And so I'd forgotten that I'd seen it, and I hadn't seen it for a long time. I don't think I ever owned it on DVD. I may have had it on VHS, but I didn't have the DVD. I never had the Blu-ray. So I was coming back to this after a long time. So I really enjoyed the film. Again, I watched it. It's a bit silly. It's a bit kind of, I think the story's given away in the trailer, so I don't think there's any spoilers with any of this in terms of
really.
Quite, but they give. The real question I had after this is, what if they'd marketed it without giving away whether this guy was still alive or not? That might have been interesting, because then I think you'd have hated this guy in the second part of the film and just wanted him dead. But whereas from the beginning what's going to happen with this anyway. So I enjoyed it. As cheesy and as over the top and as completely ridiculous really as it is. And there's lots of plot holes. At any moment this all falls apart if you look at it closely enough. But it was fun.
Can't happen for one.
That's
a huge plot hole.
Yeah, well, indeed. So it was really fun and really enjoyable. And Ashley Judd was lovely in it.
Yes.
And Tommy Lee Jones is really good. And so as a film, it's a solid. Don't think too much about this thriller. And Bruce Greenwood makes a good bad guy. He always did. So I thought it's a really solid film and it holds up well. Go on, sorry, Deej, go on. Do you want to do that?
No, I was just going to say about Bruce Greenwood. It's like we just talked about him last week too, in The Core.
Was he in last week? The Core. Oh, of course he was. Of course he was. Yes,
right.
He was indeed.
But he wasn't a bad guy. He was a hero that had a weird demise, because I don't understand how that could have happened if he can fall into lava and he just doesn't. That can't happen. But I don't know why it wouldn't have bounced off his head. Yeah.
If he goes under.
Anyways. But I did like him in this in the dichotomy of the 2 weeks, right? And you're like, oh yeah, that was him last week. Pretty funny when that happens.
The best thing I've ever seen him in was that 13 Days when he was playing JFK. In that film is fantastic. I wish that would get a Blu-ray or a 4K release with Kevin Costner about the Cuban Missile Crisis. That was fantastic, that film. Anyway, I digress.
Yes. So you did that on Twitter too.
No, I know.
Conversation.
Straight up. Yeah, it'll be all right. Really solid film. Really enjoyed revisiting it, and glad that I've got it. What I wasn't wasn't quite expecting was the quality of the disc. I thought the video, and to a lesser extent, but still appropriate, I thought this disc was very nice indeed for a middle of the range thriller from 1999. I thought this looked very nice indeed. It's colorful, it's detailed, it makes every location looks like somewhere you'd want to visit because it just looks great, I thought. Now, bear in mind, not having seen it for a long time, I can't compare it to the DVD or the Blu-ray because I never had it. So this is me coming to it fresh after, a long time. And I thought it looked great. There is stitching on there.
Smooth.
Yeah, that's fair. But the problem with that smooth, I think, maybe suggests that there's DNR and it's
right.
There's
no
detail.
No.
So you've got all that too. You've got because on there the knitwear that they're wearing, because of course it is the 90s. So they've all got knitwear on them there because that says they're rich. And you've got all the detail of the wool and all that kind of stuff, even with the white colors, which again, we talked about white not looking great in 4K, and yet it did. The lushness of the plants and the water and the blood and all this sort of stuff, I thought all looked absolutely brilliant for a mid-range Batcat release. And I was transfixed through some of this, just looking at these little details, the little marks on Ashley Judd's face, the little, even the little kind of peach fuzz sort of hair that you can see on facial features and that sort of thing, just look brilliant and really, really impressive. And obviously every crag and crack and crevice on Tommy Lee Jones's face is
even though he was young.
Yeah, well, young. I don't think he was ever young.
Yeah, I know.
I think he was born looking 90.
Yeah,
it's like Steve Martin.
I was just going to say the same thing. It's like Steve Martin. Like that's when you're 30, just bleach your hair white, and you'll just be that. You'll be young forever. Ageless. Right after that.
So that looks great as well. So that was all good. And then the audio I thought was really nice as well. I haven't got any timestamps because I watched it with someone else, and it doesn't look cool to keep pausing it. To go, can I just write that down a minute?
But there, did you find any? Were there many causes for? I didn't find any. And now I like the way you put that, and it's nice. And it is a movie from what year is this? It's
99.
99. Okay.
Yeah.
To me, it felt even older, but it still looked nice for a 4K release. And it looked the sound was nice, but I didn't find myself going, "Oh, I got to talk about that." I got to, It was just a really nice representation of a fairly old movie. I thought it was actually older than that while I was watching it, because I couldn't remember when it came from. But and like you, I've seen this. I think I have it on Laserdisc. I loved it at the time, but I haven't seen this in decades. And then as it started up, I know the name it's in the title. I was still like, oh, it like your memory, it all starts flooding back to you, right? But the picture quality I thought it was very consistent. It was very nice all the way through. I wasn't as like, oh wow, I can honestly say it's never looked better because it is a good 4K release. But it's not reference of anything, not reference sound. No. It's not reference picture, but it is just, it is really, really nice and that's why I keep saying that. I love the way you put that.
Well, when I compare it to some of the other recent Paramount releases, I think Paramount are suddenly forced to be reckoned with back catalog releases now, with another one we're going to talk about in a minute, and with the core, last week. When I look back to things like Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2, when I look back to 48 Hours, we look back to Coming to America, movies like that were released by Paramount, they all looked grainy, a little bit washed out. They're okay, they're decent, but there was nothing to write home about, almost to the point where on occasions I bought them and then having watched them thinking, well, I've only really bought that, so I've got it in the newest format, not because it really needed to be in the newest format. And I was quite disappointed with Beverly Hills Cop 2, and 48 Hours was okay, but not brilliant. So when I then encountered this, how smooth, again, to use that phrase, but again, that's slightly pejorative when it comes to 4K, because that suggests DNR, doesn't it? And
I was
and all
thinking
this
more
sort of stuff.
film-like. It was nice and
There
smooth,
you
like a
go.
film.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is fair. I was very, very pleased with this compared to some of those older Paramount releases, and it's much closer to the core in terms of how it looks and sounds. Obviously, not the core's got the pummeling bass and all that stuff, but in terms of the theatrical nature of it, I thought it was really nice. I was really pleased with it, and more than I thought I was going to be. I thought it would have been grainy. I thought there would have been print speckles, and there would have been issues, but it just looks really nice. So I was very pleased with this. And again, anyone listening, watching that likes this movie or thinks they would, this is the version to get for sure. Because it looks great. Really, really impressed with this. But yeah, it's not reference. You've got to we have to give it different allowances for the age of the film and that kind of stuff. Yes. And again, it's budget and everything else. So reference, no. But does it look great? Yes. And yeah, I was very, very happy with this. Again, notwithstanding the ludicrous nature of the story. But there we go. So yeah, no, it was great. Yeah. Very good.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. Wow, that's a rarity, huh, Steve? John, why don't we jump to
go down to the 5.
Yeah, because we're gonna end on that on our big one. That's
okay. Yeah. So I picked up the 25th anniversary steelbook of The Mask of Zorro in 4K because it
was on sale.
Well, actually, the reason I jumped on it is because they added Dolby Vision that was not in the previous releases.
Oh, okay.
And since this is a steelbook, they tend to go out of print quickly and become hard to find. So I wanted to jump on this right away. So it was a couple dollars off, but I mean, this is one of the movies that I actually did pay pretty much full retail for because I wanted to make sure I got it. I haven't seen this movie in a long time. But and I can't even take advantage of Dolby Vision at this point because it's not available on my projector yet, even though it is coming. But I wanted to have.
There's another 2 weeks.
Well, this promises to be an over-the-air update only and should not have any issues. But in any case, Mask of Zorro 4K disc, Dolby Vision if you have it, HDR, Dolby Atmos. I thought this looked fantastic. Again, for a movie that I don't know what year this came out.
98.
I know it was late 90s. So very similar to Double Jeopardy in the age of this movie. I
think this one lends itself to shine more.
It does. This is colorful. It's a comic book movie before comic book movies. Zorro is very much a comic book character. And this, everybody has seen this movie, so we all know what it is.
Yeah.
But I thought it looked great. I thought it sounded great. I hadn't seen this in so long that it was almost like watching it for the first time. I mean, a lot of it came back to me as I was watching it, but I didn't remember all the beats to this movie. So I had a great time watching this, and I pretty sure I saw this in the theaters back in 98, but I haven't seen it on the big screen since. So again, having this on 123 inches, with the Dolby Atmos and all that, this was great. If you don't own this in 4K, like if you have the previous 4K release, I wouldn't buy this just for Dolby Vision unless you are just really into that. Because I don't think there was any other changes to the audio or to the transfer. I mean, I guess they must have done another pass on it to at least add Dolby Vision. But like this has been around in 4K for a long time. So if you have it, I wouldn't rush out and buy this. But I didn't own it, and I wanted to get this release specifically because of that. And yeah, if you don't have it, you should definitely pick it up. You've both probably seen this in 4K already.
Yes,
but it's great.
I absolutely love this film. Yeah, this is a modern classic for me. I mean, a modern, last century,
right?
But but a modern classic for me. I love this film from the minute I first saw it, which was in America in '98. And then I was working when I came back from America that summer. I was working in a cinema locally to here, and so I saw this film probably 40 or 50 times over that time, and I've owned it on everything since, and I have seen this film up teen times. I know every frame, line, scene in this film backwards, and it was directed by a Kiwi, Martin Campbell, who of course did GoldenEye and Casino Royale and various other movies, so he knows his films. This film is fantastic. The movie's great, and it's such a showcase for Antonio Banderas and Catherine Zeta-Jones. Less so perhaps Anthony Hopkins in this, but still the
bit role,
and the Tanner, which has never been more obvious than in this release.
And the dark eye the mascara too.
Yeah, it's really bad, isn't it? But it was pretty rough. But such a good film, and the video on the 4K disc is fantastic.
It is great.
There are various moments that are just made for 4K. The bit towards the end where he's got his sword just before he fights Captain Love for the last time, and he turns the sword to the sunlight, and the sun glints off it, and that's almost eye reactive in HDR. It's just this was made for HDR before there was such a thing, and it just looks, and that sword's never looked sharper and more threatening than in that moment. Right. And so you get all that, but then the audio, and of course, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, when he walks on screen at the very beginning, it comes from right off screen. You can hear him coming, and you can feel the sound moving, or hear the sound moving, as he then walks on, and then of course pulls the sword, waves it, so you get that sort of around thing, and then he cuts the Z with the flames right across the screen, and it goes off screen. So it goes right across, right down, and then right across again. And then you get that kind of growl. There's a panther growl. And then, of course, then that goes right over the room. And then you get the stuff and the castanets and the clicking of the heels at the same time. Oh, it's great. And that's right at the beginning. That's how it begins.
Yeah, that's the credits.
I know. It is so good. Yeah. It just fantastic. And the film just carries on like that. You then get the big crowd action sequence with the guns going off and the echoes and the crowds all around. Yeah, this is demo stuff. This is the kind of thing.
The mine explosion at the end was
really, you feel that, don't you?
Yeah. It definitely shook.
There's a second noise to that. Again, I know because I know this so well. So when you get the explosion, you get the initial explosion, and then you get that sort of noise that comes after it, which just kind of gives it a force as well.
It's so good. I love when they do that with explosions. A certain explosion. They do it. That's I usually reference the Terminator 2 when they blow up Cyberdyne, because you get the boom, and then it goes, and then you'll hear the tick, 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 like pieces dropping behind you. But yeah, no, it's really good. And like I said, it's so much relatively the same time period as Double Jeopardy, but it just
much different movie.
Yeah, right. But it lends itself to that. And it's funny, when we were talking about Double Jeopardy, I was thinking this, and Paul brings it up in the chat, and it was like, because we were talking about Double Jeopardy and that, well, it can only be, from that time period, so it's not necessarily going to be reference. But then you think of Lawrence of Arabia,
right?
Or you think of, Bridge on the River Kwai, and then Paul brings it up. He's like, if they've got the camera negative for older movies and it's in decent shape, entirely possible to make great 4K. Do it well, should never need to do it again. Lucky us. But that's what I was thinking. I'm like, how can a movie like Double Jeopardy end up, we give it the leeway because it's from 99. But then Lawrence of Arabia, you're like, how are they make that movie? It's so old, but that's reference 4K. That's it. We're not qualifying that. That is reference, because they're taking it off of the film stock. But I think it also comes to the quality of cinematography at the time. Okay. So when they're shooting, Double Jeopardy, they're not necessarily thinking, well, is the lighting perfect? Am I getting the right image in the shadows and this and that? It's they're shooting it for the thriller that it's supposed to be, and they're not really getting into that. when Hitchcock was shooting Psycho, he was. So the cinematography of that, the lighting for each of those scenes is going to play well in 4K. And same with Lawrence of Arabia and any of these old. So you're only as good as your source. And we talk about that all the time in our systems, but here it's, Double Jeopardy, you can't make it any better. That is what it is. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the time at time we do qualify it, but is that really fair? Because we have older movies that are even better than the brand new ones that are coming out in 4K. So it really has to do with, I think this 4K, the HDR, is really showing off the artists, regardless of the period and how they shoot this and what they're showing us. And, and you were able to do that back when, 50s and 60s. They just didn't have the technology to show us what they were doing. Isn't that pretty cool?
It is, but also it's going to come down to the budget and the shooting style and all that stuff as well. Because if you shoot it on video and you shoot it in a lower resolution, then that's not going to translate as well later to a 70 millimeter shot, movie like Lawrence of Arabia, Bridge on the River Kwai, where that extra information's always been there. We've only just recently been able to really take advantage of it at home. I mean, obviously they were able to display it to a certain extent in theatrically, albeit not with the HDR. So there's a bit of that to it as well, and the shooting style too. I mean, Mask of Zorro was shot with a painterly eye. There's so much in that is the cinematography is gorgeous and always was. Yeah, so it was shot that way. I mean, again, you look at the shots towards the beginning when the Don de la Vega arrives back in Mexico, and you've got the all the colorful stuff of the soldiers, and he's coming off the water and there's glinting light off the water and all that stuff, and it just looks fantastic. All the costumes are done that way, and very colorful too, so that just makes it more more immersive and translate better to the newer formats. So yeah, and again, I mean, Paul's making the point there that they were shot in a wider, more detailed format, so there we go.
Yeah, bear in mind, Lawrence of Arabia, Lawrence in 2001 were shot in 65 millimeter film, which gets you all of that information. And it's like when I've taken photography and talking to people inside, in movies and stuff, they talk about like when you look at a piece of film, like a frame under, it's almost 3D. There's a depth to what's on that piece. So that's what, like the things in the foreground are actually in the foreground on the things, the way that is shot, the way it is restored there. And if you can, or frozen there, I should say. And if we can pull that out in 4K and in HDR and really recreate the depth that is on that frame, that's huge. And to your point, it's like, and it just depends on the stock, what they're shooting, what the budget was, what can they do. And like we were joking about earlier in high frame rate. Well, there were 24 frames is because they were each frame costs money. And it's the less you have per second is the less money. I mean, in an 2-hour-long movie, each second, you're saving a few frames per second. That's a lot of money in your budget right there. So, but yeah. All right. That was a good little segue, but I mean, there's great points that, I'm glad Paul brought it up, because I was thinking of saying it, but I'm like, well, we'll just keep on going. But thanks, Paul. All right, let's jump to, Steve.
Okay. Oh, we're skipping over number 4.
What was number? Let's just do this one. We'll get to that.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So we'll do this one quite quickly. So this is, Violent Night. Which seems weird to watch this as we're just going into spring. But,
I know.
There we go. But I wasn't about to wait until Christmas for this, because I loved this when I saw this before Christmas. And now I've got the Blu-ray. It's not available in 4K yet, but it's almost certainly going to get a release in 4K nearer Christmas. If it's not, someone's missing a trick somewhere, because it's just got to. But anyway, no waiting. I watched the Blu-ray before now. So film is great. John Wick meets Home Alone meets, Bad Santa, basically.
Yeah.
And everything in between. And I notice it's from the same production company as John Wick. and I think not the same director, but possibly same producers. I think. Very fun film. Disc is really good, really solid within the confines of 1080p. So there are some at the beginning where it's randomly set in Bristol in England, which is 2 minutes away from where I live. And it's clearly not Bristol, as I said when we reviewed it before Christmas. It's not even close to being Bristol. It might as well be someone's front room. But there are some issues with the black levels are not brilliant in that scene. They are quite grey. That's going to need to be looked at. So there, but otherwise, generally, the movie looks good. And once they get to the compound and the action really begins, there is some nice kind of shadow detail, and there's some decent, colors, and that's fine. But it is always clearly a 1080p disc, I think. And I think the 4K and HDR version of this can only improve it. Audio's decent, but I don't think it's not demo worthy for me, because, and I appreciate some of this I did watch quite late at night, so I didn't have it at my normal listening levels. But nevertheless, I didn't quite get the separation with this that I would have liked to have seen. There is a nice sequence in the middle where he discovers his hammer, and that's not a euphemism. It is a hammer. He discovers his hammer, and it's getting late at night, isn't it?
That was for John's benefit, because he knew where that was going to go right away.
When he gets his hands on his hammer, and starts playing with it. Let's go to double entendre heaven. So when he gets this hammer, you get this nice kind of choral kind of music, and then there is a fight sequence with it where he's taking out these soldiers, and this hammer, every time it moves, there's this massive swoosh, and you get a nice kind of bass response to that. So you feel every movement of that thing, and can imagine how painful that must have been had this actually happened, of course. So you feel the force of it, you feel the bass of that. So that's a really nice sequence. But otherwise, I wasn't blown away by the audio, and I see what Carl's saying in the Dolby Cinema, but I don't think it didn't strike me as being particularly noteworthy. Maybe its lower budget is showing itself maybe in this surround track for me, but I was hoping for more. But it's still good. It's still solid, and it's decent, and it's a great film. And so you've got to pick it up regardless. The whole thing could be in black and white, and it would still be worth picking up.
I think
it's a really fun film.
Yes, it is. I think they rushed this disc out. This is just a guess. Okay. I think they rushed this disc out for the holidays. It had just come out right before the holidays in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
The disc came out because Todd and I have talked about this. I think a little bit. I don't think we ever talked about it on air. We talked about it privately. We were going to do a show on it, but I said, let's wait till next Christmas, because the Kaleidescape's got the 4K and Atmos HDR, and it is phenomenal. And I have a feeling that we're going to see this in 4K next year, because it's already out. I mean, it exists, and it is great. And like Carl said, he hasn't seen it yet. I don't think he's seen it at home yet, but in the theater, he thought it had great Atmos. And he said he's actually saying he'll pick it up on Kaleidescape at the holidays. But Todd was so excited by it. He's like, let's do it. And it was like, I don't know. I think it was like later in January. I go, well, let's wait till Christmas time. It'll be a great one for us to revisit. But yeah, and Todd and I ended up talking for 3.5 hours, and we didn't really need anything else to talk about. So, but yes, I think they try to rush this out, and I haven't seen the Blu-ray, but by your description, George, it's it feels like it was a rush job, because there is an awesome version.
Yeah, well, quite, and it could have been, and I'd have to accept that. I wanted more, and I was expecting more, and I only really got my juices flowing when in this particular bit that I was just talking about. Otherwise, a little bit anemic at times. And as I say, there are some issues at the beginning with black levels and shadow detail. It's all very grey, and that then kind of fixes itself. So, I mean, I'll be the first one to pick up the 4K, if that does come out for Christmas. I mean, they're missing a trick if they don't do that, or if some boutique label doesn't pick this up for Christmas. then there's something wrong somewhere. Because it's great, but it's a good film and a solid disc, just not demo worthy. I would not reach for this if it wasn't December. I wouldn't reach for this to demo it to anybody and go, oh, check this out. Which is a little bit of a shame, but there we go. It'll become a holiday tradition, but in my house for sure.
Yeah. So it's good. I really enjoyed it on 4K. So in 4K. So, all right. The next one, Steve, you are up again because John and I are all we have.
I'm done except for my last one. So.
Same here.
Okay. Well, I'll quickly rattle through the next two then, and especially this one. Okay, so this is The Woman King. Then it had been tipped for Oscars and awards consideration, but then didn't make much of an impact. And I think, having seen it, I now know why. So this is a film set in 1823. It's set in Africa, where there are various warring factions that are at war with each other and are being exploited by Western civilization. And in the background is slavery and all this sort of stuff. So it's quite weighty topics. And I had been really looking forward to seeing this because I'd heard good things. And as it says there, on the cover, it does say it over here as well. It says the gladiator of our time. And I happen to think Gladiator's possibly one of the best films of this century. I absolutely love that film. And so if someone starts talking Gladiator, I'm immediately, my ears prick up. So I bought the 4K disc of this and watched it on Sunday afternoon. Thought, okay, I sat there with just me, cinema room, times, nice and quiet on call. I thought I'll give it a go. And I'm sorry to say, in terms of the film, I was very disappointed with this. It is curiously unengaging. And what I mean by that's what I said on Twitter as well, is that it's got all of the ingredients of something that should be fantastic. So it's got fairly decent fights, it's got good cinematography, it's got a story that on paper should be really interesting. This young lady who is destined to be a wife and nothing more, finds herself being brought into this kind of warrior elite female fighting force, not Fox Force 5, of course, from Pulp Fiction, but still an elite female fighting force. And she is then trained, and then you've got a sort of general who is struggling with her past and kind of all this stuff. And then back to all this, you've got all kinds of fights going on, everything else. And I thought, this is going to be great. And I was bored. And I was bored a lot, which is not like me because I like this kind of film. It's overlong, it's unengaging, the characters are not much fun. And I had a big issue, as I do to a certain extent with Black Panther, with American actors or British actors trying to do African accents. And I find that disconcerting, and it's not very well done either. And I just think they should talk in their own accents because they're not carrying this off. And I find that irritating. So that doesn't help me either. So boredom plus irritation does not help. So
not a good recipe.
No, it's not.
I tried that early on in the podcast. Nobody responded.
They just weren't having it. So I was very unengaged with this. And I was wondering about an hour and a bit in. It's only hour and 45 minutes long. It's not a 3-hour special. And about
but feels like
hour,
it.
Well, quite an hour and 15 minutes into it, I'm thinking surely we're near the end now, and there was another half an hour to go. And it's like, oh, man.
That's
but
awful.
I did watch it. I carried on with it.
Too bad.
So the film is not great. I will revisit it at some point because I need to give it another go now I know what it is. Because I might enjoy it more when I know what's coming. If you know what I mean, as I do often, as you guys know. But at the least though, the video quality is very nice indeed. So that's good news. So that was keeping me at least invested in some way. It's very three-dimensional, lots of detail and color and all this stuff. And the HDR is great. There are fights at night with firelight, and then you've got fights at dusk and daylight and everything else. And so that looks really good. And it is three-dimensional almost throughout. And I put some pictures up on Twitter because they will, again, it was like I said the other day, you can take any shot from this and it's all decent. There's not a bad one in there. And the sound is okay. There are some nice bass rumbles. Again, when the hits go in, they feel suitably meaty. I mean that literally. And you get kind of there's a nice sequence, a kind of a graduation sequence where there's singing, and that all kind of moves around the room very nicely. So as a presentation, it couldn't be better, I don't think. It's just the film that's the story it's telling that is just unengaging, and I feel bad even saying it, because it should be a story that I would like, if not love, and it's just not. And I can't quite put my finger on why, other than the accents and just perhaps something that we've seen a million times before. Maybe there's a bit of that as well. And so, Gladiator of our time? No, it's not. Just watch Gladiator. Just, if you want a Gladiator for our time, watch Gladiator. That's it. Yeah, because that film's fantastic, and it's a really good 4K disc as well. So it's a shame. There we go.
All right, and then your last one before we get to our feature.
Okay, so now we can talk something good.
Oh boy,
so, yeah. So this is Red Eye. Now, have you guys seen this? I'm assuming you've both seen this.
I haven't seen this.
Many years ago.
I don't think I have. It could be one that I sit down and watch and go, oh yeah, I've seen it. But
I'd be surprised if you haven't, Deej, because this was quite big when it came out. It's a Wes Craven film. It's a lean and mean Hitchcockian thriller. Basically, it's 90 minutes long. Sorry, in fact, no, an hour and 25. So it's actually 85 minutes long, and just all action. And it's from 2005. A film where basically a woman gets on a plane, she encounters a charismatic stranger in the queue, and then gets on the plane, and charismatic stranger turns out to be something that you don't necessarily expect. All that's in the trailer, so nothing's spoilers there. And it beautifully plays into the paranoia of post 9/11, this worry about flying, this war on terror, all this stuff. And so at the time, that's what it played into. And yet, having now watched it again all these years later, it's still now just plays like a film for people that are afraid of flying, because you get all those issues as well.
Yeah.
So as a film, it's great, lean and mean, really enjoyable. It's still just as good as it was. And by the way, just as a slight humble brag, guys, whilst we've been on air, I've had a tweet from the writer of the film. Who when I put up a little mini review yesterday, overnight, he tweeted it and then retweeted it as well. A guy called Carl Ellsworth. And he's tweeted out whilst we've been on air and said, thanks for your kind words. And I'd asked him a question about the main character's backstory. And he said, nope, never wrote a backstory beyond what he reveals in the movie. So there we go. Anyway, so fair play to him. Nice, always good when the screenwriter takes time to say thanks. So really good film, really fun. Now, I'm very pleased to report, as another Paramount back cat release this week, that the image and sound are excellent. Again, within the confines of how the film was shot and its budget, but I was very, very pleased with this.
It was also 1080, right?
This is 4K.
Oh, it was. Oh,
yeah.
I
This
thought
is
you
4K.
had 1080.
No,
okay,
no,
I'm
no,
sorry.
no,
Graphic is wrong then. Oops.
Yeah, don't well, but that's fine. It's still the same release. So it's 4K and it's HDR and it's in it's DTS 5.1, obviously upmixed. So it's very nice indeed. You've got lovely details, facial details are brilliant. Cillian Murphy's eyes have never looked more blue. And you've got the even down to little bits of stubble that he's got on his face, because you realize he hasn't shaved that day, and the stubble is there. And sorry to say, Rachel McAdams, you can also see that she's got fur on her jawline as well from how detailed this is. So you've got all of that. The colors look great. It leaps off the screen. The detail levels, you've got the stitching on the airplane seats, you can see clearly, and there's little patterns on there that you can see. The whole thing looks brilliant. And again, pretty three-dimensional for most of the film. Again, the only thing better than how it looks is how it sounds. The sound mix on this is really fun. Now, it begins with bass rumbles, but whenever you've got whenever there's turbulence on the plane, of which there seems to be always at dramatic moments. Funny that, okay? But the turbulence has got a real bass to it. So when it kicks in, you can feel this thing kicking and going. It's really got a heft to it, which is unexpected for a Hitchcock thriller, basically. So that's nice. But also, there's a sequence early in the film where Rachel McAdams and Cillian Murphy are sat in an airport lounge talking, and they're having a conversation in an airport bar, and you can hear conversations going right around
Oh.
the room. You know, you were talking the other day about in Pulp Fiction, could you hear them talking off camera?
Yeah. Can you
That's
hear,
what I was
actually
thinking
make
of
out
watching
what the
this.
conversation is?
Yeah, you can hear these conversations going on. It's constantly active. It's a really clever mix. So I was very, very pleased with this disc. This is one to buy, you know, without thinking. It is cheap. It's £20 here, so it'll be $20, $25 over there. It's really, really nice. And I mean, look, you're going to see naysayers. This only came out here yesterday, so there will be naysayers that'll go, well, there's probably been some DNR and you know, this, that, and the other, and not every shot looks like it was shot on IMAX. There'll be a little bit of that because there always are. But I was very, very, very pleased with this disc. And if you like the film, and I think most people do, then it is well worth picking up. So yeah, go for it. It's really, really good.
Well, I did. I just bought it. So
oh, good man. All right. Well, if you haven't seen it, I mean, you've got to see it. But I think you'll get 10 minutes in and be like, I've seen this before somewhere. But you know, and look, and Carl Ellsworth, the screenwriter, is obviously a nice guy. So let's put some money in his pocket as well. So let's all.
I
pick
just
it up.
did.
He also wrote Unhinged, by the way, the Russell Crowe kind of road rage movie.
Okay.
Came out kind of last year. So same
was a good movie
similar
too.
sort of thing. Yeah,
I like that movie.
So yeah, very, very good. So well worth picking up. I loved it. Really, really good disc. So yeah, there we go.
All right. We ready for this week's featured title?
Sure. Looking forward to this. Yeah.
Here we go. All right. And I actually have my copy here.
Yeah. All right. So this is IP Man. And what I really enjoyed most about this movie is how every 10 minutes it jumped from Star Wars to Marvel to Star Trek. You know, all the IP was here.
Well, yeah, to be fair, he was in Star Wars.
He was.
Yep.
You're right.
Yeah.
No, so Ip Man.
Yes.
Donnie Yen. Yes. I know you bought this and watched it as well, DJ. You had never seen it either, I'm assuming.
Mm-mm.
I had never seen this movie. And this movie is my jam. Like, I
knew that watching this.
Kung Fu movies, you know. And instantly this movie brought me back to like late 1970s watching Saturday afternoon Kung Fu movies. Yeah. This was all of that in all its greatness. Like, I of course watched it in the original Cantonese with subtitles and Dolby Atmos.
As you must.
As I must.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, this movie was what, 2005-ish, I think. So, I mean, it's not an old movie, but it looked like it was straight out of the 70s. It was, I thought, sufficiently grainy, even though it was a 4K release. I don't think there was anything referenced about the picture or sound here. Maybe you do.
You finish up and then
I was just gonna say, like, I don't think there was anything reference about this. Like, I did feel like it was a little grainy. It definitely felt older than it is, but I think that was intentional.
Exactly.
And I think this movie was supposed to look like a classic Kung Fu movie. But I really love this movie. Like, I'm already looking forward to now. Even though I say I'm already like, this movie didn't need any sequels. I don't know what happens in 2, 3, or 4, but like, this movie ended and gave like the rest of his life in kind of like the post credit scenes or whatever, you know, at the end of the movie, like you kind of know the rest, the rest of his life, but I am in. Like, I know this was part of a 4-movie box set, which apparently you can't buy anymore unless you're willing to pay like $190 for it. And so I'll just be picking up the other 3 releases because they're like $12 a piece. I mean, I'm interested to see what you felt about it. You said you were in, so you must have liked it too. Even though I don't think it's more your kind of, like, I didn't think this was really your type of movie, but I loved it. I had a really great time with it. So
no, I've never said I don't like I love Bruce Lee. I love Bruce Lee movies when I was a kid. I love Kung Fu. I love the martial arts for one. So yeah, So I bought when I saw that you got it, I was like, all right, you know what? I'll grab it. And I grabbed it on Kaleidescape and I watched it right away. As I'm watching it, I'm like, this is so good. The movie.
Right.
But like you said, the grain, the picture, the sound was really good on Kaleidescape, but Kaleidescape has it's only in 1080p and it's only DTS master audio.
Okay.
5.1.
Now the disc has Atmos, and
I
and,
know.
that- and
Well,
it didn't sound bad. Like I'm not saying. I just don't feel like it was referenced at all. Like nothing to me.
When you
anyways.
compare the two, this is the one I referenced earlier by saying, like, when you're in the moment, like I really enjoyed this on the Kaleidescape.
Right.
But then while I was watching it, I bought the 4K disc so that I could compare it. And then when I got the disc, as soon as I put it in, I was like, oh my God.
The bass.
I'm like, the bass, it was so much better. It was just the opening scene, right? And then I'm like, and then the detail. But then what happens is I'm like, oh, now let me go back to the Kaleidescape. And I went, okay, it's not that far off. But it is. You know what I mean? Like when you're in it, you're experiencing it and you don't understand the levels that you're getting. But when you actually go and experience the 4K disc, I got Shawshanked. I watched the disc again.
I'm
like, it was that
an easy watch.
It's just, it's that the dynamic that you get with 4K, with Atmos. And it's like your bass goes that much deeper. Your black levels get that much better. Your grain gets reduced enough that it looks more film-like.
Right.
So when you're watching the Blu-ray, you're thinking like, ooh, that was tough. And I have some scenes here. Like obviously we talked about the opening and right away you could see the vibrancy was better in the 4K. The bass was nicer. The other difference, and this will only affect people that are going to use masking. So when I put up my masking, but my masking's, it's 240 masking. Right. So if you have a 235 movie, it doesn't really matter. It's just your masking's going to trim off that little, like half inch. You don't really care, but it gives you that nice black level for your black bars. Well, on the Kaleidescape, it's in the 235, the native look, but the disc is 240.
Right.
Nobody would ever notice other than the subtitles. Just the bottoms of the subtitles go into the black, and I mean, you can still read it. It's just like the literally the bottom part of the letters, only if it was 2 lines would just sink down. But on the disc, everything fit perfect. Like there was a little bit of film, background underneath each letter. So that was a little bit of a difference. But at like the 20-minute mark, there's like a sword fight in the street. It's not really swords, the sticks with the sword, swords on the end, or whatever you call them. I don't remember. But there's and it sounded great in both. And it felt like that. I mean, he swing the guy that's part of, he's the instructor or
that's when he was challenging the different schools, right?
Right. But the guy that was native to the town, he swings his sword and it goes counterclockwise. The thing goes right around, like behind your head and around to the other side as he swings. It sounds awesome. Right. And I made note of it so that I could check it out on 4K with the Atmos. Sounds even awesomer.
Awesomer. Is that a word?
It is now.
Osama bin Laden, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it's like you get that it's a little bit higher pitch, a little bit more detail, a little more clarity of the sound moving around you. And of course, the bass with the strikes that they have here and everything, that much better. Then at 34 minutes and 45 seconds, they do a flashback and it gets muted. Okay, they take the saturation out. The vibrancy goes down, and I'm like, huh. And your black levels go down because your saturation is gone. And the same thing happens on the 4K. It's just now you're like, ooh, the colors are still there. So like, I think, was this the scene maybe where you could still see the Japanese flag in the background or something, like you could see some reds or something, but there was a little bit more punch in the color that was in there. The music in the score was more dynamic, the gunshots, and this is all a flashback, and you're just a little bit more distinct. Again, it's the way more dynamic, more bass, more color when there really shouldn't be color. So it really shows off that desaturation that you can get, and you still get it. I mean, both of them are great, but it's going back and forth between these. You really got to see and this is, I mean, hey, this is a huge knock on Kaleidescape for not having the 4K, but at the same time, for me to be able to go back and forth, if I have both of these on disc, you'd have to get up, unload, or have two disc players, right? So being able to flip back and forth and seeing this, it really makes it, like we were saying earlier, like these are minor upgrades. You wouldn't know the day if you just came over and sat down after watching it at your house, John, and I put it on the Kaleidescape, you'd be like, yeah, this is the same thing.
Same, right?
You wouldn't know. But when you go back and forth, you're like, holy crap, that's a lot better. Pretty cool. The last one I have is the sparring scene at 53 minutes. And the grain this is a scene where it really got desaturated, and you could see IP Man through the bars, and he's watching the first time he was there to see the sparring session, and it really got grayed out. It looked like, and it was much like the flashback, and it was, but on the 4K, it was a lot cleaner, a lot nicer. Same, much like what I said on the flashback scene. Everything was just way more smooth, and it just looked so good. More discreet sound with the yelling. There's one in this particular scene that, like, I think it was IP Man that yells off to the side on your left rear, and it was just more distinct in the Atmos, as opposed to in the DTS Master Audio. It still sounded like it was coming from over there, but it just a little bit more distinct and discreet over there. Just really, I just can't say enough about it, just because I did that, and it is that good of a movie. Steve, I know you're just chomping at the bit.
I am. Well, yeah, because
you didn't watch it this week, right?
Do you know what? I put some of the bits on. I know this film very well, so I've seen it many times.
You've recommended it to us before.
Oh yeah. I absolutely love Donnie Yen's very good, but these films in particular are very good. And to answer some of the things you were saying about it, John, I mean, I rewatched a few select scenes earlier this evening before we started. I had a little bit of time, and I didn't have time to see the whole thing, but then I know it well, so I didn't need to. So I put a few scenes on just to remind myself, because I've got the 4-disc box set. I've got that one you were talking about, which got a beautiful embossed case, just to make you feel bad, right?
Yeah.
It's got a really nice embossed.
It looks great, but I don't want to pay 180 bucks.
No,
for it.
and neither should you, because I didn't. But it's got so it's got a really nice embossed gold leaf black case thing, which is actually on display in the cinema room. It's one of those very few cases that I actually couldn't put in the attic. It was just too nice.
Right.
So yeah, it is designed to look like a film that is old. It is designed that way. It was shot that way. It is quite desaturated at times. In fact, I think during the karate scene where he says, "I'll take on 10 men," it's almost monochromatic. It's almost black and white.
That's the sparring scene I was talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there is color manipulation throughout this film, because of course there are different periods in his life. So it's more opulent at the beginning. When he then is down on his luck, it all goes very desaturated, monochromatic sort of thing, and then it moves from there. But yeah, that's a very deliberate thing. And the reason that they then tell you all about his life is they did not intend to make sequels. And I don't think they thought that this would become something that would spawn 3, but it does, and did. But it was a big hit when it came out. The Atmos, I agree. I think the Atmos on this is really nice. And as soon as you turn it on, you get it. And that theme, by the way, that theme is something that runs throughout all of the films. And when you first put that on, it's just big and wide. It's huge sort of sound. So it sounds fantastic. And then you get the bass hits when we then get the sparring with the wooden man. So you get that kind of echoey stuff, but also you get the thumps as he's doing that. And then once the fighting starts, of course, the bass goes bonkers, and again, every hit feels like you can, it feels like what you imagine it would feel like, or sounds like what you imagine it would feel like, if that makes sense. I'm tripping over my words. It's getting late. But you get all that too. And every fight sounds like it. They're all really well done. And of course, it's quite epic in its scope, certainly towards the end. I mean, the fights at the end are just, massive.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's very, very, very good. And I absolutely recommend them. But I would recommend the other three as well. So definitely buy them. I mean, three goes a bit silly. One of the bad guys in 3 is Mike Tyson. Okay, so that's a bit silly. Yeah, and he's... so that's a bit silly and is a misstep. 3, I think, is seen as being one of the lower points of this, but 4 gets back on track again. And Bruce Lee, crops up because Ip Man was his sensei or Sifu. And so Bruce Lee pops up at various points during this, and then you get quite a nice representation of him in the 4th one. So I absolutely recommend these, and all 4 of them are good and all worth picking up. And if you can get them, Deej, as well, for a sensible price, pick them up because they're all great examples of the genre and great films. So yeah, I think these are fantastic and well worth picking up. And I was very excited, John, when you said you'd picked it up, because I thought, ooh, now I could talk about it. Because whenever I've mentioned it before, it's all like, I get that you're like, well, yeah, is it for me? Because it's a bit esoteric, Ip Man, what the hell? But once you've seen it, you won't forget it, and that's why it's because these films are so good that they've developed this notoriety and international kind of interest. And then, Deej, we're going to quickly talk about the other one that I mentioned. Should we deal with that?
Betcha.
Oh, good man. Right. So, just moving on beyond Ip Man, and just reminding everybody of something I think you and I, Deej, talked about in one of our across the pond sequences, maybe, or it might have been a Takeover Tuesday. I'm not sure. So, if you liked Ip Man and you like Donnie Yen, and he is very good, but if you want something a little bit more modern, then I recommend this film, which is Raging Fire, which came out in 2021, I think it was. It is available in 4K and Atmos over here, and I imagine it would be over there on disc. And if you want, this is really not out there. It's got to be, Deej. Got to be. Nope. It might just be on a limited label, maybe.
I think so.
Oh man. Okay.
No,
well, that
we
is
don't
a
have it.
shame.
That's why I have the Blu-ray here. It's not available at all on Kaleidescape. All we have over here is Raging Fire on Blu-ray.
Wow.
Well, it's by Wellgo USA.
Yeah.
Came out in 2021. It is in Dolby Atmos though.
Okay. Well, that's good news. But the 4K disc of this film is excellent. And for this type of film, it's reference quality. So you've got it's basically a Hong Kong version of Heat. Again, which I talked about before, it's very much like that, where you've got two people opposite ends. They're both very good at what they do. One police officer, one sort of bad guy. And of course, the film is moving towards a confrontation. And unlike, of course, Heat, where it's, it's just Al Pacino with having a cup of coffee, in this, it's a proper fight, and it ends up in a church. And there is a serious, dust up, basically. But it's really, really nice in 4K. You've got this beautiful cinematography. It begins with a flashback sequence on a night time in the docks, where it's all lit by fluorescent lighting, like sort of orange arc sodium lighting, and it's pouring with rain. And you've got, right from the beginning, you've got this beautiful kind of overhead rain thing. It feels like you're actually in the middle of this rain shower. But then you've got the HDR as well, from the pitch black to the arc sodium lighting and back. And it begins like that, and the cinematography is gorgeous, and the church fight is all with lights coming through the stained glass windows and all this sort of stuff. It is fantastic. The film is really good, and it's another one of these movies. Deja, we've got a bit of a cottage industry in movies that out heat. So this is one of them. This is another one. Again, I mean, Heat was the benchmark, and then all these movies are trying to expand upon it. And this is one that does it very well. I mean, when you see the sequence, you'll be like, "Oh my God, that's Heat!" But it's really, really good. And I absolutely, this was an instant classic for me. I loved this film, and it is well worth picking up. Should you import it? I think if you really, really like this kind of film, and if the original Cantonese doesn't put you off, then if you can get a hold of a copy from here and import it to the States, do it. It won't be cheap.
Yeah, because that's.
But if you can, it's well worth it.
But that's 4Ks are region free, so you're fine with that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no issues with that at all, and it's just the cost of buying it and sending it over. Zavi had it as an exclusive for a while, but now Amazon have got it, and I think various other retailers have got it. It's a really, really good film. So I recommend this. Cool. Even is it better than It Man? It's a different kind of film, but it's very, very good. So yeah, pick it up, guys. I really would recommend it.
Yeah.
Amazon here doesn't have it in 4K, but I'll try to track it down.
Yeah. Zavi, I think still shipped to the States. They had it as an exclusive, but it's got to be available. I mean, if it's out of print, that's a crime. It really is. It's a great film.
But yeah, and getting back to Ip Man, I will say
correctly. Right, well done.
But what's funny is when you watch it in Cantonese, you never hear them say it anyway.
No, it's in the subtitles.
Yeah, but he does
it's still spelled IP.
Yeah, Ip Man is how they say it.
I mean, I've always read it, but I never hear anybody say it. I've never heard anybody say it. But yeah, it's such a good. I was surprised. I think Jeff also recommended it to me. I think Jeff from HD Report. I think he saw it.
I'll have to watch it again because I must have missed something in the Atmos. I don't know. For me, it didn't stand out.
Well, you know what's funny about
like
that?
It just was good.
Yeah,
but it didn't stand out. Like
I think this gets to that conversation Mike and I had in that
everything is good, right?
Everything is and I'm not kidding. I mean,
I'm not either.
It's funny because people had some comments on Twitter like, "Yeah, DJ, you're spoiled, and you got to collect." I'm like, no, spoiled means like it's all given to you. I'm like,
I was just saying,
really hard.
I bought it all, so
right,
spoiled.
But no, but what I mean by like, and that's why Mike's like, yeah, absolutely. That's like, he got it too. When I said in the podcast, I go, am I spoiled by the images that I'm seeing here and that I can't really compare? And that's why maybe if I had just watched the 4K and I didn't compare the two, I wouldn't be as enamored. But when you see the upgrade that you get and you go, oh my, like, wow, that's a big difference. And again, like I said, it's if you just sat down and watched one or the other, you probably wouldn't know which one was which. But when you actually go back and forth within like 15 seconds to that scene, you go, wow, that's more dynamic. And that is, it's just a nicer experience. So and I do think we are getting to that point where when you see stuff, it really has to be about that, like a scene, like when you go into, like when we look at Top Gun Maverick and we see some of that stuff, it's like, I don't know if the sounds and the colors are that much better or different. It's just the way it's delivered to you in a way that we'd never seen before, in an experience we hadn't seen before. So that makes us go, check this out. Right. So, but like I said about that scene when he swooshes that thing and it goes zing, and it goes right around you. You're like, wow. I mean, we've seen pans like that before, but it was really good. And the movie itself, like Steve elaborated on, it's meant to look that way. And I think the 4K,
yeah,
I think where you're watching the entire thing in 4K and not experiencing the 1080, you're thinking, well, okay, well, that's just what it looks like. When you watch it in 1080, you go, wow, it just didn't pull it. You got the same idea. It just doesn't pull it off as well because you don't get the dynamic of what it's trying to really do because the limitations of the format. So I thought it was really good. I thought it was, maybe not Lawrence of Arabia good, but
but I think you should be getting the bass rumbles, John. I mean, you did. It is bassy. I mean,
it's not Lucy bass, but it's bass.
No,
yeah.
But like I said, DJ was saying, I just feel like we're so spoiled with everything we see now that unless it like does something to go extra above and beyond,
right,
it doesn't stand out. You don't notice it as much because you just, especially since we're all mixing everything into Neural X. I mean, I'm getting Neural X when I watch The Good Doctor. You know, it's like everything I watch is
The news.
surround sound. You know what I mean? So it almost has to do something incredible
Right.
to stand out. And
Yeah.
I think, you know, like to the point that you are making, DJ, and you and Mike were making, we're just all spoiled now with this stuff. And what's great is just good now because we're just used to it.
Right.
So
right. You've got to get more creative with the greatness now. But it is fun to go back and compare the discs and see how far we've come. And, you know, and that's, I'm glad I did it. I'm like, it was a lot of fun. And I'm looking for, I don't know which way I'm going to buy now. Do I do the same thing on?
I wouldn't buy them twice.
I don't know. It's because it's
You
so
probably
easy to
will,
buy them on Kaleidescape and just
well, you will
watch it.
because you're you. I know that you will, but
but they're all worth watching. Even the Mike Tyson one, they are worth watching, and they all build on his life, and it tells the tale.
I think the Mike Tyson one came about because of the stories. That was what the question back in the day too. Like, who would win, Mike Tyson or Bruce Lee? Who would win, especially when the UFC when the UFC came out and like, oh, you put Mike Tyson in the ring with one of these guys doing like Brazilian jiu-jitsu or a you know, taekwondo, you know, master or, you know, kung fu master. All of these different disciplines, which one would win? And you were like, and you know,
well, that all stopped after Buster Douglas, right? So,
well, that too, but I mean, I've seen people take down like a Mike Tyson and they're literally like 5 feet tall and they weigh like 115 pounds. Literally, I saw one guy who was like 5 feet tall and about 115, and he crawled right up a guy that weighed 200 and something pounds and broke his arm. It's awesome.
Well, I'm a black belt first dan in Aikido, and I can tell you that the most dangerous people that I ever trained with were, you know, 4 feet tall Japanese guys who could
60 pounds
wipe the floor with you, because it's not about you know, it's not about strength, it's not about speed, it's about technique, and if you know how to do it, it doesn't matter who you are. So that definitely rings true. Although having said that, I don't think I'd want to take a punch from Mike Tyson. I've seen some trading stuff of him recently, even now, and he's in his 50s, and the guy just one punch from that, and that's game over.
Yeah.
So no matter
that's
what
why God gave me legs, so I can run.
Right. I can press the accelerator down the car.
Yep. That's why I'm
an
what he can't do is
run quick.
Yep. Just keep on running.
But no, definitely recommend these. I hope you guys do get the others because it'll be brilliant to then.
Oh, I for sure will.
Week by week.
Yeah,
I just don't know. It might not be this week, but I for sure will get all 4 of them.
They're all
4
good.
isn't on Kaleidescape yet.
Oh wow, it's been out a couple of years. It's not new.
Well, none of them are on in 4K. Although 3 is in DTSX.
Oh wow.
So
I think
there you go.
I think it's the Atmos on this box set. They're all Atmos on the box set. So
it is.
That might be worth comparing.
Yeah. Welcome to my world. So, all righty. Is that enough of a show, guys?
I think, we've gone quite long.
We're good. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching, listening, participating on the live stream. This will be a normal show this week, but we'll see what the response is for next week if we break it up into the daily podcasts. But yeah, thank you everybody for all the responses. Keep the emails and tweets and all the fun stuff coming. And we will be back. And next week on next Tuesday, another great conversation, I should say, not just another great conversation. We go back across the pond with Paul.
Awesome.
It's not far from Steve, or I should say from George. So
George seen Steve.
George seen Steve. George
sounds like man, woman, camera, TV,
lights, camera.
Great. I can't wait for people to hear. I was telling Steve before we jumped on. I can't wait for people to hear this. Paul's been in the industry for a while. Audio.
Cool.
He's got a home theater and I'll let you guys listen, but what he's building with him and I, he's a little older than me. But we're like brothers, like long distance brothers. He's literally building a house. I'm building a house. He's having trouble with his design, so he just did it. I'm having trouble with the design, so I just did it. And I mean, we have a great conversation. It's
Awesome.
it's so much fun. So I can't wait for everybody to hear that. And there he is. Good show, y'all. That was Paul right there in the chat. So there he is. So, all right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Check us out on Tuesday. We'll be around. Have a great weekend, whenever you're listening, watching, playing. But what do you gotta do?
Go push play.
What he said.
Hey, Fred.
This has been a Hey Fred production with theme music by Jeff Bernhardt and Throne Vault Productions.